welcome back to the SWC at home, and I can now die with the knowledge that Dave is better than me, even in meme form. It is Finch and Mifflin here on the desk, and aside from our insecurities about how great Dave is, there's a lot to talk about coming up here today, right? He is so good, Miff. You got to be pumped. PK versus eUnited.
Dude, how could you not be, right? We get to go to SPL versus SPL action. We got veteran players like Zapman, guys like Snoopy out there. I'm expecting grudge match level aggression in this set.
Yeah, there is a lot on this one that I'm thinking, right? Because these two teams are teams that have a lot on the line here with this one. PK, largely the same team that are the defending champions. And then you go over to eUnited, who had in Baskin and Gino, and now have got to perform better, right? After you dump Guy J, who was playing so well. You kind of owe it to him, I think, to come out here and really perform for them. So I think both of these teams have something to kind of live for. Let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket as we see it now. Space Station 08 to the winner of PK United. So a very nice prize for you once you win this game. You get to face those guys. And you saw how hot Nika was playing. Then the winner of that goes on to play Radiant.
Yikes.
So here's the thing. It does not get any easier.
I mean, like, well, if you even look at the other side of the bracket, which evil would you choose? Which poison do you want? Ghost Gaming's over there, right? They're looking scary. But Space Station, man, I think that they do look incredibly strong in the set that we just got to see. But there were a couple of weaknesses that I think these SPL players are going to keep their heads on, keep their eyes locked on.
Make sure they're ready to try and deal with those, depending on whoever it is that wins out of this next set. PK and eUnited are the teams that are about to play here next. I think the pressure's mostly on PK, right? They're the higher-seeded team coming into this. They're the team that is expected to win, so they're the ones that have to live up to all that. And the guy on that team who stepped up for him last year, Neil Ma, is exactly the guy that we have standing by here for the interview. So we'll get Neil Ma in here, see what he's thinking. Neil, can you hear us, bud? How you feeling before you go into this set?
Feeling good, obviously. I mean, it's the best time of the year. How could you not be?
Well, Neil, last year, this same team, except, Sam for Soccer, turned on the Jets, so to speak, here at this exact time. Do you feel like you all are really ready, poised to do the same thing here again?
Of course, yeah. I mean, like, our year has been a little bit up and down for sure. But every time we come into Worlds, the Jets turn on, like you said, and we have the capability to beat any team. So good luck to everyone out there.
Look, Neil, I know you're confident, but I've seen PK, I've seen the tweets, so I'm going to keep it simple. What percentage of the time in this set are you going to be holding down the W key?
I mean, if you've been paying attention all year, you know that's 100% of the time. I only got one speed. I live and I die by it, and that's how it's going to be.
Neil, to get a little bit more, I guess, into the specifics, it has seemed really critical, especially lately in this year, for supports to be ready and capable of playing really, really aggressive. Not just W-keying, but making sure you're at their perfect buffer pressure. You are, in a lot of ways, the pace setter alongside the jungler. Is that the correct read, and how are you ready to make sure that you play at that style?
I think everything obviously varies game to game, but we know that we can play a lot of different styles on this team. Like last year, I was pretty proficient at doing that invade style. So just because you're shifting away from the speed buff to the purple buff, I still know how to play that way too. And I think we're just going to kind of have to be playing it by ear depending on what eUnited decides to do today.
All right, appreciate taking some time to talk to us before your big game. Good luck, Neil, and we will see you hopefully after the big win, my man. Thanks for talking to us. Myth, clearly Neil Ma has already said the Jets are going to be on only holding W key. Do you think that he's right? That's the style that they're going to need if they're going to be able to want to win here this weekend?
I think if Neil wants to take the game into his own hands, it's the only way to play, right, Finch? This guy is confidence embodied, and I think no better team is going to facilitate that than PK. These guys like to play like they're the best, and when they wake up on the right side of the bed, as Aggro alluded to, when they get their Fruity Loops or whatever they like for breakfast, sometimes they look like the best.
I didn't realize that's what you meant. And great on you to take some advice from our number 3 there, huh? I mean, kind of digging down into the barrel for some of that. But I think that Aggro is pretty right, as he can be, right, in that point. This is the type of team that does kind of have that different type of mentality. Sometimes they come in and they're like world beaters, and sometimes they come in and they're making uncharacteristic mistakes. It's like they get fumbled and lost in the late game. But I don't think that's the team we're going to see. Neil Ma looked locked in, which means that's going to be trouble for eUnited, who's waiting on the other side. And the guy that's going to have a lot of the pressure to deal with is indeed going to be them in the middle lane for him. So let's go and see who we have here for this interview here with eUnited. It's Hurriwind, the one, the only. Hurry, talk to me here for a minute, man. You guys are up against PK, the higher-seeded team, and there's a lot of pressure, I guess, on you guys to try and rise up to that. How focused and ready are you all coming in here for this set?
I mean, we're about as focused and ready as we can be, We've been prepping for a long time for this set in particular. I feel like we've got everything figured out as much as we can. We haven't seen them play in a while, and they haven't seen us play in a while. So as much as we can be prepared, I'd say.
Okay, Hurriwind. We know that you are the Yanis god, the best one on the planet, the best one to have ever touched
It ain't close.
I haven't ever said it to you personally, so take that as a compliment now. We
Thank
know
you.
that these SPL teams are going to be very worried about it. So are you worried, assuming that PK is going to ban it out, that maybe Paul is going to be targeting the rest of your god pool?
I think there's no chance they ban it anyway. I mean, we'll see. This team doesn't give a lot of respect to that picks, and they never have. Maybe they'll start this time. Maybe I'll have to teach them a lesson if they don't. So we'll see.
Well, Hurry, you guys kind of had to pick up and run with this new version of your comp, right? With Gino and Baskin and the boys coming in here. What's it been like now that you've had some dedicated time to practice with them? Do you feel like you're refocused or a new team, or how are you guys looking now that you've had this time?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, we've kind of just been on an uphill trend ever since we switched. I mean, we went from winning no games to winning about half our games, and I'd say if we were to play an SPL regular season now, we'd be winning a lot more than that too. So feeling pretty good.
Sounds like you all are ready and focused. That just got me more and more excited for this match. Thanks, Hurry, for taking some time. Go ahead and get back and get focused on this next match.
Guys.
So, Miff, that is both of those guys now, Neil and Hurriwind, coming in confident. And I think that you might be right a little bit about that grudge match. You heard the way he said that they don't like to respect the picks. I think he wants to show them they're wrong.
Hey, he said didn't respect. I'm going to go ahead and read into his heart. He said disrespect through his soul. And Hurriwind is not a player that's going to take that sitting down. I think that PK, maybe, game 2, game 3, we might not see Yanis again. He pulls it out in game 1.
Exactly. I think that's a pick you only got to get smacked by once before you don't let that happen. It's not as if Hurry wins a Giannis one trick. That guy can get it done on multiple picks. As I kind of said earlier in the halftime show, maybe a little bit more of a facilitator just by the team needs, but I think it's exactly as Acro said. Once that front line is online, now that they've got a much more consistent team, Hurriwind can kind of be a little bit clear to be the all-star. That was their, their hyperbolic time chamber, that break that we took. They are grinding and ready to come in now at full strength and try and take it to this PK team.
Look, if you're going to talk about eUnited All-Stars, Finch, you're going to bring up Scream to me next time. Next time, you're going to say the word Baskin Wooney Kim to me, because these are the guys that I'm keeping my eyes on. eUnited fans at home, if you want them to win, you're going to win through Baskin. You're going to win through Scream. These are two of the best mechanical players that the league has ever seen at different phases of the league. So we really need them to pop off if you want eUnited to win.
Yeah, and what about Snoopy back in his native role right now that he's getting to play ADC like he always had? Suddenly Snoopy's out there bringing the hurt yet again. Who knew that putting him back in his comfort role with some really strong players around him would help this guy out? But now he's become a real problem for him. So now when you start to look at PK and you think about Zapman, who's on that other side, as we do move into the picks and bans, that could be a big matchup. And to talk about Zapman for them, I think they've got a great flex with Apollo. That's kind of been the biggest talk lately is Apollo jungle. Because Zap loves that pick and it could go in the jungle, that could be a real flex for them early in the pick ban phase.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see it very early on. We saw first pick Apollo a couple of times in the first set of the week belt slaps games. I think PK is a team that can definitely utilize it, not only as that fantastic flex, but I think that Apollo in of itself is that strong right now. The threat of Apollo jungle is there. Despite some of the naysayers we have on the team, aggro, I think Apollo is very good. Yeah, that's why he's number 3.
It all adds up. And that guy on our screen right now there, man, Kyovo Fred, we haven't talked enough about him. I still don't think we've seen his full potential yet this year, if I'm being honest. And he has a chance to really hit that right here at the most opportune time. So let's catch up then on these bans. Raw, Guan Yu, and Amir all taking out Cupid, Persephone, Hell. This makes some sense to me, but it does leave Yamoja open for Neil, and you know that he'll take that if it's open. How do you feel about these top 6? You think this was right, or maybe you should swap Amir and Yamoja around?
I like these bans a lot. I think that Yamoja getting picked up by PK when Neilma's willing to press the W key, what was it, 100% of the time? He said not much that's going to do it better than Yamoja out of that duo lane. But eUnited going to the Fenrir here, that's a little bit jank. We saw some Fenrir from Quig earlier today.
Yeah.
I'm worried about it.
Fenrir has been a more popular pick lately. I don't think that he's particularly consistent just yet, but eUnited can use this to form a more aggressive comp, and they're going to need it. Look at the hitters on PK's draft right now. Yamoja, Set, and Apollo is a very scary top 3 for PK to have been allowed. This Apollo maybe can function as a flex pick here. Where do you expect this set to go? And then once you clear it up, I suppose that'll reveal if Apollo can flex.
Ask me again after one more pick, Finch. This is a lot of flex picks we got coming through here. The set can go mid. We know that Paul's capable of doing it.
Exactly.
It could potentially go into the jungle. We know Cuvo can do it as well. Occasionally we see it in the duo lane, so if Apollo jungle's on the table, we might see a set ADC. But either way, I think the identity of what PK is going for here is on the table. They're looking to be aggressive. Set, Apollo, Yamoja, all benefit from the W key.
And what I'm telling now is, with all 3 of these picks selected already, how are you going to have time left to try and focus out Paul in the middle lane, right? It's going to be even more difficult for you if that's what you're trying to keep up with as we round out these top 3. So let's catch up then on these last few bans. Hambois and Morgan, those are direct Paul bans. That's we don't want to lose to Paul, is what I'm seeing happening right there. And then Discordia banned out via PK. And can you blame eUnited? How many times has Paul just taken over a game from minute 1?
Plenty of times. More times than you should likely be allowed to
Right.
out of the mid lane. But I think Hurriwind might have been onto something here. So far, no mid lane selection for eUnited.
Yeah.
So far, no Yanis ban either. This man, if he locks it in, he's going to be trying to send a message. I've got shivers. I want to see it.
I want to see it too, man. Not even 3 minutes ago, Hurriwind said, I dare him to leave it open, man. I will punish. And here it is open. Doesn't have to take it right now. That could come out any time throughout the set, but I think that's something we could expect as Robin comes in as this next selection. So that does move Finra around. At this point, Myth, I got to think this is Finra's support.
I think it is too, man. And Quig didn't make it look too good up against SSG, but eUnited, an SPL caliber team, very capable of it. But Aphrodite, almost forgot about her, makes it through all the way into 7th pick. That's wild.
Listen, PK or not, you know, some teams really like to follow the tier list, no matter what's the best stuff. That's not necessarily PK. They play their own thing. If they lock in this Aphrodite, they have just gone down the list of the best things you can pick in each role, and I can't say I don't like that strategy. Aphrodite, Apollo, Set, and Yamoja. Anti-heal will be the word of the day for the casters. We'll get you over there to them in just a minute once we round this all out, but they're going to need to make sure they're taking care of it. Everybody has self-sustain and healing on this draft.
Man, and that last pick for PK as well, that did not help me clarify what's going to be happening here. Kamazot's coming in that last slot. I'm loving the draft altogether. I think we can pretty accurately assume that this Apollo is likely going to go into the duo lane. I think Zapman's been showing a lot of prowess on it, but eUnited finally with the mid lane selection, and it's going to be Isis, Mitch? That's risky.
I'm very surprised by this Isis pick. I don't want to say too out of field. This is something we have seen Hurriwind play before, right? And Isis has a ton of control. That interruption can be critical, depending on who's diving on her to try and get her out of there. And she has early pressure in that wave, right? But I mean, she's a bit immobile. She can be kind of taken care of. I need eUnited to be purely objective focused with this ultimate, right? Or they could be in some trouble.
But think about it. With Isis Ultimate, with the composition that they have, it's raw W key potential as well. Fenrir, he's jumping on you with a stun, followed up by a Spirit Ball. You're losing out on 80% of your HP. Sun Wukong, Robin, all going to be creating space for this largely immobile Isis as well. Sure, it's a little bit unorthodox, but eUnited have clearly thought this pick out and drafted very well around it.
All right, so to try and go a little bit deeper than this PK roster, I know you can't maybe say for sure where it's going, but between the set and the Kamazots, we think that's likely between jungle and solo. Where would you prefer those picks to go? Whose hands would you rather those picks end up in?
I've seen Cuvo have a lot of success on this Kamazots pick in the past. I think it's going to allow him to get aggressive in the early game, play very well around this Aphrodite. The slows are going to chain with the back off and the vampiric bats. He's going to have 2 get out of jail free cards if Kamazots does go into the jungle. I'm talking Bat Out of Hell and Undying Love.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very, very contentious front line.
Yeah, especially for someone like Isis, who can be rather all in at times, right? Her ultimate, there's one big thing that happens that they're kind of done right now, and she needs the ability to be able to blow someone up quickly. Could be tough if she's dealing with an Aphrodite on the map here this time. So Myth, now, the even harder question. Which way are you leaning now to seeing these drafts? Will it be the team with Emoji and Aphrodite? I'd be okay if it was.
I wish you didn't ask me because I don't like giving credit to the tier list, but this time around, I gotta do it, dude. PK, get away with a dirty draft here.
Yep.
And you didn't even bring up the Apollo, man. You gotta talk about Apollo from now on. I'm not gonna have another aggro on the desk with me.
No, Apollo's going to be great. That ultimate means Zapman can get involved all the time across the map, and that is exactly what I would be expecting from Zapman here on this one. So you don't have to tell me which one you like better. What do you think is going to be the decider then on each team? Who are you really looking at?
I'm keeping my eyes on eUnited. We're talking about Scream and Baskin, as I highlighted earlier, but I think PK, Scary D, is the guy to keep your eye on. If he controls a lane, he's going to control the game. He'll be inside your Phoenix, your tier 2, and you know what? Zapman as well, only because of the Apollo, okay? I'm going to give credit to the Apollo here. If he's able to rotate in the mid in the 3v3, he's going to absolutely dominate.
And do you think that he's happy that Baskin's the one that gets all the solo lane credit? I think he'd love to come in here and remind him that Bel Air really popped off at Worlds last year too, Scary D now. But I think either way, that is a great place to focus some of your attention, because so often he kind of flies flies under the radar. Beating the guy everyone heralds as the king, a great way to kind of get back into the spotlight.
Oh yeah, and you want to eliminate that threat early on, right? You don't want Wooney Kim working his way through the tournament. Scary D looking to put a stop to his tracks right now. I love it. I love every single bit I'm seeing here because it's both teams bringing very distinct identities. They look like they're swinging for the hills immediately, nothing hidden in either of these drafts.
My big critique for United, I mean, we know whether this kind of this all-in aggressive comp, but is this Isis going to be enough magical damage on her own? That's for pretty heavy physicals, and then you need an Isis who's maybe a little bit inconsistent with her damage sometimes. I mean, can she carry that torch on her own?
She can, but only for a certain amount of time. Isis is not a mage that you want to be your sole magic damage 35 minutes into a game.
Right.
For the first 20, she's probably nearly unmatched. Her damage output is going to be really good, but Wing Gust being that persistent ability that you need to channel, there's a lot of ways PK can deal with that. Yamoja stun from a range, Apollo Mez if she's up close, Aphrodite Kiss. There's so many ways to deal with it. I mean, Hurriwind's going to have to pick his spots.
Yeah. Not going to be easy for them at all. PK versus eUnited, the game we've been waiting for, and the team we've been waiting for. Aggro and Hindu take it.
So much Finch on the desk, and let's be honest, this game today, Ryan, for me, more than any other that I've seen so far, is the closest one in the placement stage. Two teams that have both struggled all year to find consistency. And consistency is the real key because we know they have the skill and potential to be the best. I mean, PK did it. They won Worlds last year.
This set is going to be so fun, man, because I have literally no idea what is about to happen because we've seen greatness from PK. We've seen horrible sets from them. We've seen smaller flashes of greatness, but greatness nonetheless from eUnited. And we've seen horrible sets from them and everywhere in between. So I think that this set is going to be really interesting. And already eUnited coming in with a very set strategy. And this is something that I love to see whenever we have these Worlds in January. We see this when the Worlds are in November at DreamHack, but it's a little bit bigger of a gap whenever you see a meta shift right in January. These teams have had weeks and months in order to play and figure out what they want to do.
Yeah.
And eUnited has gone all in on this early game. The Isis will not survive late game. I think Finch and Mifflin were right to be concerned for her later on, but I don't think eUnited's planning to go to later on. They want to win early.
And look at them go already into the jungle, looking to pressure Neil Moore and Zapman. Nice little up down there from Gino, but that was all just raw damage. Can be healed back up by Emoja and with
Watch
the
out.
potions too. But on the right-hand side, Scary D. And let's be honest, for me, there's a few battles on this map here today, but this one, Scary D versus Baskin. Baskin acclaimed multiple times from multiple sources that he might be the best player that's ever touched the game. It's pull up or shut up time, you know, let's be honest here with how their seasons have gone against Scary D, who, let's be honest, he's also been a bit inconsistent over the time as Paul's beads are full, and Gino and Scream will combine to give him the fist at the back of his head. First blood to eUnited, the gates are open.
And this is exactly how you have to play this composition. You can't come into this thinking eUnited, oh, hey, remember when we were 0-10 for a little bit before we got our new roster? Remember how we didn't look that good the vast majority of the year? You can't be playing like that. You have to come in and play like this composition is built to play, which is exactly how Ghost Gaming plays. This is a Ghost composition, top to bottom. Maybe the Wukong would be something different for Final K, but every other pick, I think you could easily see Ghost really execute very, very well. So you have to be doing things like looping underneath on back harpies. You can't let Afro Camazotz get away pre-5. Their pre-5s are really, really weak. They really rely on those ultimates to bring that safety, or in Camazotz's case, to bring that extra bit of kill potential that he really needs. Robin doesn't need that help. Isis doesn't need that help. Those are gods that are much more well-equipped to be fighting early, and I love seeing eUnited go for it. They already have an over 1,000 gold lead off of just one kill, and Paul's bead still down for 90 seconds.
Look at this rotation from eUnited, though. 3 members now on the right-hand side as they join towards Baskin, looking for the invade on the blue buff. Only Cubo Fred around here, and he might just watch on and hope for a steal. Won't even get a window to do so. As a nice rotation with that pressure in mid lane from Hurriwind there, just allowing that pressure to push to the right-hand side. eUnited are here to play.
Love it, because they're coming in with a clear game plan. And this is a lot of what I wanted to see from a team like Mind the Gap, where we just saw them up against Space Station Gaming, where what's the point of trying to go late game against a team who's really favored in those moments? I think eUnited PK is a much closer late game matchup than something like Mind the Gap versus SSG was, but eUnited coming in and trying to just catch PK off guard. And when you've seen this Pittsburgh Knights team really struggle in sets where they fall behind earlier throughout the year, why not just try and take them off kilter, tilt them a little bit by gunning it down on their buffs, don't let them breathe. Look, I'm biased, I'm the NA guy. I think that this is the right way to play Smite. The more aggressive, the better. I think it's pretty hard to tilt too far into the aggressive territory, and as a result, I kind of love this eUnited draft.
I mean, we talked about the drafts too, and I do want to say, like, from the flavor of the month perspective, I think PK got everything they would like in that draft.
Yep.
For me, if I took the team names away, deleted everybody off this game and went, these are the two compositions, the first thing I'll say about PK's draft, they are very CC-like.
Yes.
And when I talk about CC, I'm talking about hard CCs here. When you've got eUnited across the way, they're a lot better at controlling those engagements, and that is a concern for me.
And I think that eUnited identified the same thing you did. No beads for Hurriwind in the mid lane. He
Good
goes
point,
Aegis instead. And you look at eUnited's composition, it's really the opposite. They are CC heavy across the board. Every single member of their team has some sort of CC you have to deal with. Even the ROM cripple arrows and consistent slows, those become problematic in the mid game whenever Snoopy's going to rotate to a fight with a full quiver of arrows that you have to deal with. I just think that this is going to be a composition for PK that they cannot afford to let eUnited just take what they please around the map. I just said 1,000 gold lead. How about 1,800 now, basically?
Wow.
It's not going to get any smaller if they don't start defending those buffs.
Now the big thing is obviously everyone's going to mention the healers in the game. You have Moja and Aphrodite, so technically some sort of clock involved. We'll see how this plays out. More importantly, though, I think it's going to be Scary D and Cubo Fred for Pittsburgh Knights here, because they are the assassins. They are the two with the lack of CC, but what they're going to bring to the table is raw damage output. Can they get those windows to get to the important targets? And more importantly, Ryan, who are those most important targets going to be?
Well, Hurriwind's the easiest dive on the map because he's playing Isis, and she's always the easiest dive on the map. And Hurry holding that circle of protection for moments when Scary D commits with the teleport in, or Zapman commits with that ultimate on top of him, are going to be really, really key in this game, because no one else is particularly easy to dive. Snoopy gets to buy himself a ton of time on the ROM by using his ultimate. Baskin buys a ton of time on Wukong. Scream's got two forms of CC immunity and damage immunity with the ultimate and the overhead kick, and Gino's the support Fenrir who already has the tank boots, and he gets a ton of protections when he uses Ragnarok if his passive is full. So there aren't a lot of great dive options, save for Hurriwind, which means that if you're eUnited, I think you kind of leave Hurry to the Wolves.
Neil Mark could be in trouble by a wolf in sheep's clothing, and now there's no escape as Scream dunks on down with a kill. Zapman, though, is here to play, and Cubo Fred combines. Good stun out of Hurriwind there, but it's not enough to find a kill yet. And with Paul being there in the middle lane to regen, just a nice little pick, a nice opportune moment there from eUnited on that rotation around the Gold Fury.
Really good play by Neil to get the damage off. That River's Rebuke didn't end up blocking anybody off like we normally see from it, but its CC and damage is not something that you can afford to ignore. So he gets that damage off, makes sure that eUnited is committing those ultimates. But you see the power of this upgraded Sunder for Gino really committing straight on the Neil, and that's what I love so far from eUnited. They aren't hesitating.
Yeah,
you know, that was going to be a close fight because they knew that eUnited didn't have the numbers that Pittsburgh Knights were going to have ultimately. But it didn't stop Gino from going up and down and picking up Neil with the Ragnarok, even though he knew Neil had purification beats.
From my point of view, though, Neil just didn't expect to see Scream there. The gank from Gino, Neil played it like, okay, yeah, cool, Fenrir's going to get aggressive, but when Scream was there too, credit where it's due, though, Zapman did turn up exactly when you want him to from that dual lane, using that Apollo ultimate there. Let's be honest, it's the most discussed thing at the moment of how potent that can be. You may not think there's value, though, from what I'm understanding.
Yo, no. Mifflin is misrepresenting my point. I think Apollo's really good in Hunter.
Oh, but not in the jungle.
Not in the jungle. I'm not a believer in the Apollo jungle quite yet. Good teams are just going to punish you too hard for playing it. I think Apollo and Hunter.
You're going to eat your words later, man. When we
really
see some jungle Apollo come into play, you're going to eat some words this week.
Listen, and I'd be happy to do so, because it's cool. I think having a Hunter in the jungle be a top-tier pick would be really cool for what it would mean for team compositions and how you have to play the map and how you pick and ban. I would love to be proven wrong.
Well, left-hand side, Zapman going to get picked and carried. No beads available for another 60 seconds. But guess what? He won't have much time to live if Snoopy can land these snipes. And that first one, that looked huge. I don't think he could have missed that.
No, and Snoopy's not missing that. That's the thing. Everyone talks about the different famous ROM players throughout history. Reels comes up, Jermaine comes up, and deservedly so. But You remember when Snoopy was literally unbeatable on this pick? That was his selection when he moved to mid lane for a little bit. He was so good on the ROM that he was playing ROM mid and making it look good. I mean, this dude is really, really confident on this selection. And just Gino, again, being the initiator. 3 kills so far for eUnited, 3 assists for Gino. That's exactly what this eUnited team was desperately missing. I think that's why their roster change made so much sense.
PK's first little expedition into enemy territory there with Cubo, Fred, and Neil Mar. But it's good to see them not just like backing away consistently anymore. They're trying to find some aggression where they can. eUnited, however, do have a comfortable lead at the moment. So not enough to take the game away. But it's great when you can look at your press tab, look at your scoreboard and go, my jungler's got 2 kills and my carry's got a kill. And on top of that, my support player's been involved in all 3. eUnited fans must be ecstatic. PK, meanwhile, are like, don't worry, we've seen this before. We've been down this trail before and we can still come back. eUnited right now, though, starting to set up base around the Gold Fury because this red buff is about to spawn.
Scream coming in, already has that Brawler's Beat Stick done. He also went with a tank boots, which might not seem like it's the best call, but I actually love it in this game because of all the dots on the other side from Pittsburgh Knights. Vampiric Bats, Lovebirds, Sandstorm from Set. All of those are really quick, small dots that are going to stack up those tank boots really, really quickly. And frankly, tank boots are just absolutely bonkers right now.
Can we keep it quiet, please?
I'm
like,
totally down.
Listen, supports always lose their fun stuff because you other roles pick it, right?
Correct, yeah. Tankiness, bad. Everyone should get one shot. That's when the game is more fun. And tank boots don't let me one-shot anybody.
So you're saying it's okay for Guardians to one-shot? Okay,
no,
not anyway. 10 minutes in, though, eUnited in a very comfortable position. Zapman at the moment, though, working on the Devour's Gauntlet. You can see the stack count between the two, slightly there for Snoopy with the pressure they found. It's eUnited, though, that have been the aggressors for the most part so far, unexpectedly so with this composition. Scream blinking in on Neil. Neil low on Omni, and that's so important for him to get away. Using that option is going to force the ultimate out onto Scream. This is a small win at the moment, because look at the rotation in the jungle. Paul and Cubo actually looking at Hurriwind, who gets picked off.
And now Scream caught in a bad spot. Mystic Rush available, up down for him, and he's going to take out Neil.
But where's Zap? He's in the sky, and Scream could die. Paul will claim the life early, and that ends up being a 2-for-1 in PK's favor. Can they look at the Gold Fury here is the question, because I actually noticed Scary D has limped over here too. They're looking for a red or a lazy back, I would see, but Gino's out of trouble. Might not be the same case for Snoopy, though. He thought he was safe with the purple buff, and that could be a Gold Fury now.
Look, PK might be CC light, but they are not damage light. We saw it there from Fred on Snoopy. We saw it onto Hurriwind as well. While Scream was focusing out Neil and doing a great job of it, it was really not enough protection coming from Hurry on that backside, and it's difficult to get enough protection for him, because I imagine what happened is that Cubo blinked 2'd, and at the same time as that was happening, Paul used his 2, and then Hurry's dead from that position. Not even an Aegis and a Circle of Protection is going to do it for you. And look at where Hurriwind is going with the build, going straight into some physical defense to try and answer it.
But if you look at the graphs, look at where the trajectory has gone, and it's in PK's favor. And now we're back to a tied game, pretty much, with PK in the lead in XP and slightly behind on the farm the gold situation. With the Pyro now going eUnited's way, it'll swing down again. But you can see how the early game from eUnited, from that one play on that left-hand side there, comes back to haunt eUnited a little bit and gives PK a window.
And that's what healers do best. They take small windows and they're able to leverage it into much bigger plays, because they're able to stay on the map so much longer. They don't have to worry about being low on a resource like health, because they keep everybody on the map a little bit longer. eUnited not able to really punish that overextension by PK whatsoever. It ends up being a massive gold lead, or massive gold swing rather, back in their favor. And as we've seen over the last few months of competitive play, when healers are even or ahead, they become very hard to deal with.
And as you mentioned, healers there too. The Beat Stick already picked up Divine Ruin as well for Hurriwind. More importantly, though, you can see that Cursed Onk picked up from Baskin in the solo lane. The Death was talking about the healers being a play in this, and we were saying, bit of a clock involved with PK sustain. eUnited are ready to answer that call and try and make sure in these engagements that the sustain during the engagement isn't going to be as useful.
Healers, or compositions with this much healing, do scare me a little bit, though, if I'm PK, because it's a two-sided coin. Either the enemy team doesn't properly play their anti-heal, mistimes their onk, things like that. Is Scary D going to use that Kingslayer ultimate and actually forces Baskin to use his? And I think that's a win for PK. Don't have a lot of kill potential without that, you have no kill potential on Baskin without his ult.
This is some confidence from PK all of a sudden, though. Look how deep they are in territory, right in the face of eUnited here. The purple engage and contest on that left-hand side from PK as they get the support from the jungle and mid, who were just better positioned there.
So one of the things I was saying about having all these healers, if they misplay their Ankh, but they kill one of your healers, and then you still have 2 more, it's very difficult for them to come back. But in the cases where a team like eUnited would properly time their Ankh or get all of you grouped up and Ankh you all and end up killing you all at the same time or getting everybody low, then all of a sudden multiple kits are now far worse than they would have been without it. You're kind of incentivizing eUnited to overcap their anti-heal in a game like this. And it's interesting where eUnited has gone in response because they don't have a traditional healer, but Hurriwind is going to fill that role a little bit. Pick up what he got is actually a sovereignty. Now, this feels a little bit weird, I'm sure, on the mid lane. Normally when you see physical protection on mid lane or something like Breastplate of Valor, but sovereignty not only allows him to group up with people like Snoopy and give them some extra physical protection, but it's a lot of HP 5, as Assault mains know.
Yeah.
And Isis passive is also a lot of HP 5. You stack those two things together, and it's almost like having a passive healer around you whenever you're doing things like objectives. It's
like
actually
Jin 10
insane.
passive almost, right? But
For your whole team.
Yeah, for the whole team too. You did see on the right side, though, with that tier 1 tower going down there for Baskin, the Scary did get beads and were forced by not Gino on that right-hand side. So you can see that Scary having to play a bit more defensively. Every member of the Pittsburgh Knights have picked up purification beads, realizing that the CC chain is a danger to them, and they have to play around it effectively.
And honestly, that's a win for Geno's Fenrir already.
Yeah.
This pick has done its job. Regardless of if he gets a big Ragnarok from here or anything like that, he's done his job because he has forced PK to miss out on multiple teamfight rounds.
Scary D could be in a bit of trouble here because there's an engagement going on around eUnited, but the flip-flop towards Scary D from Gino there, you can see the focus was towards him, knowing those beads are still on cooldown. A lot invested in the sense from eUnited, however, though. Snoopy's ultimate to try and secure a kill that wasn't available around the Gold Fury spawn in 45 seconds means that PK are going to get aggressive themselves. They're looking at Hurriwind early on. Aegis already used to buy time. He won't get the sustain as Zapman claims the life. And now Scream under pressure too. Nice overhead kick to buy some time as Baskin slams down. But nobody else in eUnited around as PK have grouped up as 5 in the mid lane. In the jungle, Neil Moore on his signature emoji, causing problems again. But maybe it was a bit too much as his beats are forced with Ragnarok. That goes in PK's favor so far.
And that all starts off the jump in from Gino. It was well thought out because Scary had already used his teleport. He didn't have beads, so Gino, I'm jumping in, and my ultimate is down. His ult was down with just a few seconds remaining, and I don't think eUnited was ready for that. Snoopy goes up expecting that Ragnarok to come through, expecting a big engage to come through from eUnited, and it just doesn't happen. And then we see exactly what we expect. No one can peel this composition for Hurriwind. It's just not possible, even with the sovereignty and the circle of protection.
Tier 1 tower down in the mid lane. Red buff stolen by PK, and now the Oni Fury on top. A great little situation there for PK in those few moments. And at the same time, the Pyromancer is now spawning. All ultimates still on cooldown at the moment outside of Pause that's just come back available. PK have started to garner speed in this game now.
And you know what the best sign I think for PK is here is that Huvo looks locked in. I mean, 3-0-2. He's been a part of every single kill so far for PK. And throughout his career, World's time, it's always a question mark for Fred whether it's fair or not, but he looks absolutely dialed in so far. He has been accurate. He has been finding the right engagements. He hasn't been too passive, which has been a big problem for him in the past in big games. He's been aggressive. He's been the initiator, and he's been landing all his skill shots. And when you're going to do all those three things on a god like Camazotz, you're going to have a scoreline looking like 3-0-2.
And now eUnited are behind. Pyromancer goes down. These Oni minions are going to cause a problem for a second or two. As you can see, eUnited just going to have to clear them out slowly but surely. Now with this, it's where PK wants to go next. I don't think it's time to set up for an FG just yet. But it makes it a tricky point in the game around the 18-minute mark, Ryan, because you're not ready for an FG. You don't feel too confident. But a lot of the outside towers of these tier 1s have started to crumble, so the laning phase comes to an end. But you still want that farm, dude. What do?
You can group up, especially with a healer composition. I think that might be the call, and it makes your farm a lot less efficient, but it also gives you an option. I would like to see Zap in left lane right now. Split him from the biggest objective on the map. It seems like they're doing the opposite, putting Zap in the further pushed lane and letting Scary D push up the lane that's a little bit more dangerous on eUnited side of the map. But I think you want Scary D and the rest of your team in mid or on the right-hand side, because Zap always has that global to join a fight around Fire Giant if necessary. Scary doesn't have teleport. He's just on the left side of the map.
I do see the argument, though, that Scary can 1v1 almost anyone, whereas Zap will struggle against some of the options that eUnited have on the table, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like balancing the coin on that side.
But look at the builds for everybody. No one's building true burst damage on eUnited, so normally the fear is, as Apollo, that you get blinked on and you die before your ultimate goes off.
Yeah.
Is Tank Boots Sledge Robin doing that to you? Probably not.
We'll see if it plays out then in their favor, because at the moment Scary D's still on this left-hand side. Huge minion wave at that tier 2 tower. As members of eUnited scared of showing their face, I would say, in case the pressure from PK around the FG begins. But at the same time, eUnited have got a lot of wards at that Fire Giant right now, so they've got a good area of vision to know there's not much going on. So that farm on that left-hand side is still important at this stage for these members, just goes to waste as eUnited unable to attend it, while PK on the right-hand side have that Apollo causing problems for that tier 1 tower.
And this farm going to waste is not a great look for eUnited, because they have a couple fairly large experience deficits farming. And 2 levels for Zap over Snoopy, which, again, makes sense. Zapman's able to get to farm that wouldn't put him out of position because of his ultimate, whereas Snoopy has to group with the team in case an objective gets pulled. And Scream is down about 1.5 levels to Cuvo Fred in the jungle. Not a great position to be in, because getting that final point in your ultimate, hitting level 20 before your opposition, is a pretty big power spike that we might not give enough credit.
Do you see the curse tank from Neil Mar here as well? Now there's
Zaps up.
a whole lot of sustain. A Scream now on this left-hand side under pressure. In comes Cubo Fred, linked towards Paul 2 to have a bit of damage available, but Scream will slip the noose as Cubo Fred and Scary D walk back towards the jungle once more. This is about the same time as, well, Furies have put a minute and a half, so start sieging up this left-hand side.
A little bit tough for Scream, that right as soon as PK is about to drop the chase, he uses that Mystic Rush, and honestly, he needs it if he wants to have a lot of kill potential. Now that he has Jotun's Wrath, it's a little bit better. He's got a little bit more kill potential without it, getting some more flat pen and power in the build, but as his build stands, I think he needs that damage, that not only the base damage that you get from Mystic Rush, but also that ability to deal more. Everyone takes more damage after they've been hit by it.
Gino getting aggressive towards Neil Mar. Beads forced on Neil. Meanwhile, in the jungle, Scream is trying to wrap round, but he's got no ultimate to escape. And with the swoops of death coming in from Cubo Fred, Paul gets the kill. The damage from the River's Review comes through, really more for control than anything else, as now the siege from PK begins. Round the back now comes Basket on Sun Wukong. What can it do? Not a whole lot of nothing, if I'm honest. Takes more poke, and the tier 2 tower falls.
Blink Onk is about the best he's got for you at that point, and that's just not going to be good enough. It's Scream being out of position without that Mystic Rush. If he has it at that point, that fight likely goes a whole lot better, but another beautiful River's Rebuke from Neil Ma. I just don't know that you can give Neil this pick. I think he's just too comfortable on it. Yamoja still in the right hands feels like she does too much for even the best players in the world to be able to handle. And eUnited with these hybrid builds, I mean, I was so excited to see them play aggressive early, put the pedal to the metal, and then one mistake and they start building all this tankiness, and they're not able to, you need damage in order to chew through all this healing. eUnited is trying to build tankiness in order to stay in fights as long as all the sustain on the other side, and I just don't think that's a feasible option. I think you need the burst damage, and you just got to roll the dice that you're going to be able to one-shot them before they can do the same to you.
PK playing with confidence, but look at eUnited realizing they've got to try and take an opportunity. PK know the Fire Giant's underway, though. 3 members here. Gino trying to slow them down to the best of his ability. Picks up and drags away one of the carries, but Scary D whittling round the back. eUnited get the FG. Great call from them, but can they turn this into their favor more? Hurriwind gets one. Zap takes the life in response, though, and the damage from the River's Rebuke and control causes problems for eUnited. Where's your FG buff now, eUnited?
It's all in the grave. Zapman with a triple kill. Perfect timing on that Apollo ult. And it was looking so good for eUnited. Hurriwind to survive the initial dive, got out of there initially, and then, have you heard this one before? It's a really good River's Rebuke from Neil Ma that actually ends up turning everything around. Locks in eUnited. Snoopy never even got his ultimate off, and Snoopy has not been able to make an impact on this game quite yet. It was a really good early game start for him. That pick onto Zapman, courtesy of Gino, was great, but ever since, Snoopy's been pretty invisible. Still only level 17.
Look at the pings on the map there. You see that ping at Pyro and a ping at the tier 2? That is PK talking amongst themselves, going, this is where we're going next, then we're going here. We are going to keep pushing this lead, gathering more momentum, and honestly, that's been the thing. eUnited, we talk about the W key, the aggressiveness of this composition. They stuffed that aggression at a certain point, and since then, eUnited's composition can't do what they want to because they're not able to run at them. The FG call, in my opinion, was a good call.
Yeah, I liked the call. I mean, you get to a point in the game against this much sustain that you go, okay, well, we have to do something or else this isn't going to go well for us. We have to try and play to our composition strength, which is around the objectives courtesy of this Ice Assault. And they do exactly that. And then Fred dives really deep, Scary dives really deep. They're able to handle those dives. It's just the tertiary one of Zapman coming over the top. You can't immune all of that damage. And that's where eUnited just cannot afford to be able to stay in elongated fights like they were there. And credit to them, they were trying to get out. It's just that Neil didn't let them.
We get to look at the back now and see exactly what ended up happening there between that FG call into the aftermath and Zap's ult on in. He gets the triple from this, but he's not working alone here at all.
That was, I mean, beautiful teamwork by PK in general, but that target prioritization from Zap, not going for everyone who's locked in and grouped up, leaving his team to take care of those. He goes for the one man that only he can hit and the one that he knows that he can beat based on where he is in the build in comparison, takes on Snoopy, and it really wasn't close.
I do think we're going deeper than just a 3-0 here, though, with how game one looked. I'm always nervous at the first game of any set to go, how are we looking today, boys? But both teams have shown up so far. eUnited have made some good calls and had a great early game for themselves. But they're going to have to battle back in game two, and the first thing everyone's going to talk about is, what do we change?
I mean, the early strategy worked really well, I thought. I liked that. I mean, Gino doesn't have a whole lot of player damage, but he's got 5 beads to worry about on the other side. I think he's still done a fairly decent job of getting onto priority targets and using that stun effectively. Hurriwind's player damage is obviously in an unacceptable position at the very bottom as a mid laner, but that's kind of by design for this eUnited composition. Sure. Hurriwind is the food for PK. It's really got to be better work from Snoopy and from Scream to get that damage off, and whenever Hurriwind inevitably gets dove on that back end.
And normally at this stage, it's like, what can we do at a Phoenix defense? But already, because of that play around the right-hand side, they got a tier 2 tower PK and that right-hand Phoenix. So it becomes a trickier task. Now, it doesn't look, though, that PK are going to march on down for the other Phoenixes yet. They're going to farm this one out a bit more, steal a bit more away from the jungle, and wait for that next Fire Giant.
Not a great sieging composition in general here from PK because they don't have great poke damage that's confirmable. If Fred can start hitting poke damage on frontliners, it can be really, really effective, but that's not exactly the easiest execution for PK. They want to be able to spread the map. They want to be able to use their overwhelming sustain in multiple different lanes. Normally it's, you know, okay, their healer's in left. We can send more people there to handle the healer. We don't have to worry about them in mid at least, but now there's a Camazotz and a Set in mid lane instead, and allowing Zap to split the map on the Apollo makes it a lot easier.
We do see a Primal Fury respawning now as well, and that will come up before that Fire Giant too. Last time round, that was PK taking that, and eUnited got the chance of the FG. Just wondering if we'll see the same sort of thing. I don't think why we wouldn't, because I'm pretty sure we'll see Zap head on over there to start taking that Primal, allow his team to defend the FG, and at the same time, it will buff them at clearing off that Fire Giant because it's going to reduce the damage it does and increase their damage they do to it.
And I love the crit build here for Zap because it makes that backline dive that much more lethal. It makes his objective pull much more lethal. It's not as good whenever you're dealing against frontline that's diving onto you, but Zapman has no intention of being near frontliners. He's going straight onto Hurriwind and Snoopy's heads in that back line. I think that this crit build makes a lot of sense with the way Zap's been playing.
Dream situation for Zap though, right? Like seeing low health carries going, thank you very much, I'll take it.
Oh yeah.
Gino there trying to get aggressive with the Unchained, but just couldn't find the mark. And that's really all Gino can do. Try and find some CC, get the Ragnarok off for some beads, and then have the rest of eUnited collapse on that target. But more importantly, PK, let's be honest, Aphrodite will be linking that target when those beads are down to make sure that there's another available CC immune situation for PK.
And even if the Aphrodite isn't there, you've got Fred with an ultimate, you've got Zap with his ultimate, you've got Scary with a long-range TP. I think that this fight has to be a little bit better for Hurry. He's got to be able to find a Spirit Ball that ends up getting a set of beads or doing something a little bit more impactful than just dropping the Circle of Protection and hoping.
Gino first towards the Fire Giant pit, just keeping an eye on what's going on, waiting for the window. Nice stun out from Neil Marr there to put the pressure on Gino and force the Unchained defensively. which is another aggressive tool not available for another 10 or so seconds. FG pulled still at 50%. Slow going, but sustained going from PK so far. Baskin tried to whittle down Paul's health for a little bit and did some work. Forced PK out of the fire giant pit a little bit, but the FG still goes the way of PK as eUnited just can't break through the door.
Oh, Neil's going to be looking for a Rivers Rebuke here. Nice spirit ball over the wall, but here comes Fred and Zap.
And Zap slams down, and Hurry is no more. Now with the stun, it sets up Scary for a kill on Snoopy. The Rebuke keeps a couple traps, and as Baskin gets aggressive towards Zapman, who is still alive, by the way, until Baskin takes his life, and Scary gets himself a double kill. There's only Baskin left standing. Not for long, though. That could just be the end of game one already, Ryan, because there's no one alive for a good minute.
No, that's going to be game one, absolutely. PK able to get themselves off on the right foot, back in their home territory of playing at the SMITE World Championship, of course. This composition, it just ended up being too much to handle for eUnited. I like the theory by eUnited. I think something like this can work, but you got to make some adjustments. I don't think Fred's going to see Kamazotz unless he top threes it. I don't think you can ban it in the top three, but in the second phase, you've got to get rid of that Kamazotz.
Okay, in the second phase, because I was like, you can't ban the Yamoja away from Neil. You can't also get rid of the Aphrodite and the Kamazotz.
Yeah, that too.
And what about the set?
Oh yeah, you got to get rid of that. Yeah, you can't have. They can't have any of those four gods again. It feels like. Now, realistically, of course, they're going to get some of those at the very least. But I think the big one is Neil's Yamoja. You take that out of the equation, I think that game gets a lot easier for you. And like I said, I think in the second phase, you got to ban Kamazotz. If Fred wants to top three it, so be it. That's something you got to live with. But you can't let him get it that late in the draft.
I don't think this is over just yet. eUnited down 1-0 now against PK. But I'm pretty sure eUnited are going to bounce back at least maybe game 2, maybe game 3. We'll find out after the break.
I've been waiting for the sun to come up with some Drop.
Well, the first game between PK and eUnited goes to PK, and rather handily at that. Still Finch and Mifflin here. And Miff, this was one that I feel like might have been decided in those picks and bans. So much aggression from this Pittsburgh Knights draft that they went for, this Camazot, this set, and then what, Apollo, excuse me, and then what are they enabled by, right? The Aphrodite coming from Paul that enabled all this dive, enabled all this aggression, absolutely worked. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Remember, guys, you can get involved if you follow along on Twitter, hashtag SWC at home, and you might get featured on the broadcast, just like you're seeing here on your screen. Let us know what your home setup is like when you're watching the SWC. We'll try and get you on here. We know we're all maybe a little cooped up at home, but this is one more way that we can feel like we're all in it together. And our man Hazer, literally always worth a laugh or two. Great guy that we got here in the scene. Miff, I know you can't do your SWC at home setup here for it, but talk to me a little bit about this last set that we just talked about here a moment ago. And I was talking a bit about this aggression that we saw there from Pittsburgh Knights. Is that exactly your read, that there wasn't really room for United to deal with it?
I'm not even willing to call it a read, right? Like, Neil Ma told us the plan. He's going to hit W key 100% of the time.
You know? How come United didn't know then, huh? It's a read. Leave me alone. Exactly.
But look, it's the Aphrodite, right? I think that's the crux of it. And we've been seeing a lot of lack of respect on this pick all week. It's time to ban it, Finch. It's time to get rid of this Afro. It's facilitating way too much. It seems like every single team's able to play it. And when you match it with a Yamoja for additional sustain or a Camazot who's able to sit in your face, you get the exact same situation that you're going to have in this match. PK, I think they won in the draft.
Now, what is this draft that they had? They had Yamoja too. Watch, almost all of these clips, you're going to see the person that's diving with this Aphrodite on them. Not only their base damage, but you add in this back off. You add in this additional potential for all this damage, this additional safety, and it made it hard for the Pittsburgh Knights to kind of go along with it. This is one of the first big fights that happened. It starts at about the 10-minute mark, but then ends around 11. They go back and they grab the Gold Fury. Here's one of the more late game faults, and oh, what do you know? Aphrodite's hooked up to the Camazons.
Look, you know what? I want to just link back to eUnited for a second. What is Hurriwind's deal with standard mages? My man refuses to play the orthodox picks. Where are the Raws at, the Persephones? He's playing Isis and Yanis, and you know what? I want to see the Yanis. Low-key, I think he's going to bust it out. The disrespect to leave it unbanned. eUnited looks their best when they're playing the jank they're most comfortable with. I think it's going to be the Yanis.
And we knew what eUnited's plan with this draft was, right? It was centered around this Isis to give them some objective secure, the ability to play a bit aggressive, get a pick, and come back for not a 50-50 objective, but a guaranteed one. But we basically didn't get to see it. We saw it maybe once at the Pyromancer. They started up a Fire Giant, but got punished right afterwards and immediately died a bunch. What happened to eUnited's plan, and why didn't it go the way they intended?
It was the early aggression from PK. You need to get the defensive positioning on an objective to use circle protection. It's not a long-range ability. Isis has to be standing on the Gold Fury, and if Isis is standing on the Gold Fury, you've got Cuvo Fred with the hunger of a literal Bakasura. You might as well remove the player and just say Bakasura's on the keyboard. He's so hungry, just chasing down Hurriwind at every given opportunity. Matched up with Paul, with the kiss, back up for sustain. We already brought up the double get-out-of-jail-free card that is Bad Out of Hell and Undying Love. It's just tough to find those situations where you can get aggressive on that eUnited draft because PK set such a quick pace.
Yeah, Hurriwind and Gino, we just saw both behind Neil in damage that game. Your Fender and Isis got to do a bit more than that, or I don't think you're going to be able to win very many games. So this is the case, I think, of the game plan that eUnited came in with going awry, and PK's game plan of holding W being a little too strong. Let's go ahead and get then into the picks and bans for game number 2. Remember, all best of 5s throughout this week. My favorite thing about that is that we see these little mini metas develop. There's all this time for you to make adjustments, for you to respond to what your opponent does. So I could see this one going real long.
I could as well, but I want to see where the adjustment's at, and I want to see the adjustment from eUnited in this phase of the picks and bans in particular.
Right.
Ban the Afro. Get rid of it. I don't want to see it again. I don't want to see it in any of these sets because Aphrodite is looking dominant in the SPL right now. So far, eUnited doing a good job of just addressing some of the healers. Hell, immediately some respect ban towards the set. But that third ban, if it's not Aphrodite, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I'm going to be upset. I mean, eUnited have the chance to first pick it, so as long as they do that, which is effectively a 4th ban, but also you got it on your side, then I'd be okay with it, but I just don't know how great I feel leaving that open for Paul to take, again, just one of the strongest mages we have right now, alongside how strong Persephone and Ra are, and you do see one of those banned here in the Ra. So I don't know, with only 2 slots left, there's a really good chance a lot of top-tier picks could still make it through. And we haven't given Zapman enough credit. How many of those clips begin with Zapman halting down on them from the sky and just doing a whole bunch of damage wherever he wants to?
Yeah, I know, right? Apollo's pretty good aggro. Looking at you back there.
Over
Yeah, Apollo's pretty good, right? You could start off a fight with a dunk from anywhere on the map. Let's say the beads are down, land, boom, Mez. It's immediately ready. I think that Apollo pick is something that we're going to see not just for PK, not just because Zapman's comfortable on it. I think it's a meta pick.
Yeah. And who has that much dive potential plus safety, right? What are Apollo's options if he dives and it isn't exactly perfect for him? Mez into a great dash on the back end of it. Few have that kind of opportunity, and Apollo exploits it. And this myth is exactly what we wanted.
That is exactly the adaptation we need to see. But I also want to see eUnited bring some more early game aggression. I can't slight their draft last time around, but they got a little bit outpaced. I think that you need to match the pace that PKs bring and beat them at their own game, or at least slow them down and bring some tools that are going to outscale into the late game. Because ISIS didn't really do either.
Wow, Persephone's still open. We've seen Cupid get banned up in those top 3 slots. He's still open as well. Some really strong value picks there. Some teams still like that Cthulhu. A lot of good stuff still here open. I know they got to that Aphrodite and the Ra. Are these more of the kind of bans you want to see?
I like this a lot more. The Aphrodite, the Ra bans, even Ymir, I think, is a god that needs to get some respect
He's strong
in the
right
SWC. And that's just a testament to how adaptable SMITE is, right? When's the last time we saw at a world championship Ymir got banned? Might have been 2012, man.
Yeah.
This is impressive stuff. But where's eUnited going to go with this first pick? Who are they going to try and prioritize? It's going to be the Hunter. They want to make sure that Zapman doesn't get as comfortable as he did in Game 1.
I'm worried, though. They could take, like, Apollo Persephone here. Yomoja Persephone would be even better. How as these picks keep landing through? And here's the thing. Clearly, this Cupid pick is really strong. The pros are valuing it more than maybe even I would have here to this point by kind of banning it in those top 3 all the time. But now that makes it through. They grab it. But Yomoja Persephone on the other side, that's almost untenable.
This is Sanguine-esque stuff. Zapman opened up the subreddit, clicked on the tier list, and looked at Triple S and said, Yomoja, Persephone, let's run that. And I can't fault them, right? These are just good picks. Sustain, team fight, lockdown, the ability to fight post-mortem. You can't put Persephone in the grave without her firing back at least for a little bit. It's crazy that PK get away with this, man.
You know, some mages, you're like, hey, you should, well, how'd you die with your ulta? Persephone be like, okay, just keep on going with it, right? Pretty good for one of those mages. And now we're getting a little bit off the track here. I'm not quite as familiar with Gino as you might be, but this Ardio, which could end up in his hands, maybe solo also. Is this something that you would normally have expected from him? Do you like this pick?
I think Ardio is in an interesting spot, but it got cold in the studio.
What is that chill?
Yeah, we got the Hurriwind Yanis coming through here. I'm excited for it. But let's talk about the Ardio for a second, because Hurriwind's going to talk with his play. We might need to explain what Gino's going for.
Sure.
It's fantastic counter engage. If you think PK are going to be W-king at you constantly, you want this Ardio as a wall of defense. Stuns, cripples, going to be able to keep people alive for much longer. You got a little bit of in-combat healing as well. I think Ardio's in an interesting spot in that she's not really a pick that you want all the time, but especially against a team like PK, it's a pick that can work.
Yeah, I think that ranged root gets a little bit undervalued sometimes too. That dual lane pressure is not bad at all, just at level 2 for Ardio, so I like this pick here, but it is so hard to argue with Yomoja, Persephone, Heimdall.
Oh, God.
A bit surprised they passed on the Apollo here in this spot. It hadn't been bandaged just yet, but I like the idea here with this Heimdall. That can compete with them in the dual lane. It's a ton of pressure.
It is so much, but Finch, this PK draft already is bottom of a Wendy's dumpster after the rain filthy, right? This is pretty disgusting what they're bringing here, man, and it's not stopping. Pele next. This is pressure a la mode. It's pressure a la carte. It's pressure all over the place for free.
Yeah, this is ballpark bathroom nasty what we're seeing here from them right now. PK are bringing the heat with this. I don't want to make it sound like eUnited can't win. I think they do Hurriwind a bit of a better service if these bans are a little bit more. I mean, you got to get rid of Afro and Hell, so I know eUnited get boxed in a bit, but Yamoja and Persephone to PK, even if he is great at Giannis, is he going to get a whole lot of room to prove it here in this game?
It's going to be hard to find that room,
Yeah.
right? Especially considering that really the only counter engage you have is the RDO. Maybe you drop the Fields of Love to buy a little bit of space for this Giannis. And then a Bastet as well. If you keep your eyes on the prediction podcast, that's Aggro and Barracuda, he said that if eUnited want to win, they're going to have to bring their signature level of jank. Giannis, Bastet,
Whoa.
and if I'm not mistaken, that's likely going to be a Tsukiyomi solo for Wooney Kim. This is crazy.
This is officially, go ahead and raise the alarm. It's officially the first time a game has been placed into Baskin's hands, right? They gave him the Tsukiyomi, one of the stronger assassin picks available right now who can compete in solo, as you just implied. Scream, this is comfort, isn't it? Scream is on his comfort pick in Bastet. Hurriwind's on his comfort pick in Giannis. This is eUnited going back to basics up against PK and saying, you can have the meta. We're playing the stuff we're best at.
And that's exactly what it is. I mean, you nailed it perfectly there. I'm looking over at PK, now look at the full 5, rounded out with the Kakulin. It's as meta as it comes. I think that it's going to be a lot of onus on Baskin if this Tsukiyomi is going to the soul lane. I'm not 100% convinced as of yet. I think we could even potentially have it flex into support just for an aggressive play style. But this is crazy. If Tsukiyomi's in solo and he doesn't perform perfectly, if he gets soloed even once, if he doesn't rotate out a lane first, I think you've lost value insofar as you've lost a frontliner.
All right, Myth, not going to ask you who's going to win this one, but kind of give me a breakdown of what the game plan is for each team. Like, when are we expecting PK, and what are they going to be looking at, and what are we going to be expecting from United?
I think PK, they're bringing the exact same play style. I think they're going to W key, playing around the dual lane. Yamoja is going to be the originator of a lot of the aggression for them, so keep your eyes on Neilma throughout the early game. United, on the other hand, it's a lot harder to lock down what they're trying to do, and I think that's a product, and the desired product of this draft is what are they going to do? How are they going to play around this? I think it's going to come down to objective play and maneuvering the map around this Giannis. Bastet and Tsukiyomi are a dirty combo. Bastet jumps in, finds some poke. Tsukiyomi uses the Piercing Light ultimate to finish off kills. Outside of that, it's interesting, and it's going to come down to perfect play on field because this isn't as unorthodox a draft as I think we've seen.
And don't both teams have insane dive potential with these drafts, right? Imagine a Bastet and Tsukiyomi coming through a Giannis portal at you, right? And then suddenly jumping on top of you. But on that same note, who's the best target you're diving on? PK, Persephone has safety, and as you mentioned, can fight from the grave. Kakulin and Pele are both tough to dive as well. Heimdall has the Bifrost. I understand that maybe this composition is one that's great at getting to that backline and punishing. I just don't know who the intended target is.
Everyone. You gotta kill everyone.
Whoever's there, dude, I'm taking them.
But the first priority almost always is likely going to be this Pele. That volcanic eruption, if you allow him to free cast his autos, is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's such huge AoE damage. Outside of that, it's going to be Heimdall straight into the Persephone. But look at the iron wall of defense that they've established here. Yamoja going to throw up the ultimate, split the ocean, create some walls, riptide them away, whatever you need to do. And Kakulin's going to be in your face constantly. PK bring a very standard Smite draft, and it's standard for a reason. It works very often.
And one more thing about United, I don't think PK have anyone particularly adept at chasing this Giannis. I foresee a scenario where it's like a 4-man wipe, and Hurriwind's just out there vibing, not sure where to go. Is that kind of how you see it? Is there anyone in PK whose job it is to mark this Giannis and stick with him?
Pele. It's 100% the
Can
Pele.
she do it?
The additional movement speed with Blink, you got to find your spots.
Sure.
But if you get the knock-up, Pele has so much burst potential. Giannis won't be allowed to touch the ground before he tastes the grave, right?
Sure.
Under cold mud, no coffin.
Exactly. That's going to have to be the way that this Pele is going to have to play, or it just cannot work because the Hurriwind has the damage to take 2 or 3 people out of the fight himself if there's a good ultimate, and he gets multiple unstable vortexes across as well. Last thing here, maybe don't give me this one, but is there one you're leaning a bit more towards? Not to say necessarily they're going to win, but who do you favor, I suppose?
I gotta favor PK, man. I think I like the Reddit, enjoy tier lists, right? And it's hard to argue with Yamoja, Persephone, Heimdall, and then, you know, Pele a little bit less so, and then Kakulin as well, who's had a resurgence recently in the SPL. This is such a dirty draft. I mean, you nailed it. Ballpark bathroom dirty, right? This is gross.
That's as dirty as it gets. But I mean, and this Kakulin has so much pressure as well. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Scary to make sure he's locking down Baskin over there if that Tsukiyomi ends up in his hands. Kakulin, his best thing is that when he gets that rage transformation level 2 or 3, he could get a solo kill. So let's see if that happens. Into game, we go with Aggro and Hindi.
We are indeed, and thank you so much, guys, on the desk. As we go in, I think these are 2 tier lists. But eUnited have just got a special tier list, let's be honest. They're a very specific team, and those tier lists they have there, I think they're quite happy with what they got. I like both compositions here, Ryan. I don't know about you.
I do too. And look, I mean, it might not be the regular Reddit tier list, but Yana should be like D tier, and then in parentheses, if you're Hurriwind, S+. And
I think in competitive, S+. That's
sure,
where
yeah,
I'm at with Giannis.
Listen, anytime
By
you got...
competitive, I don't mean ranked. Just
No,
to be clear.
only Hurriwind I'm putting S+ for Giannis. Literally only Hurriwind. Scream on Bastet. Bastet's like an A character.
Yeah, but for
in Scream's hands, S+. That's kind of the way it goes. The one question mark I have about this composition is how is Gino going to perform on this RDO? On paper, it makes a lot of sense. Lots of movement on the other side. Let's make sure that we aren't going to let them get away. Let's use this cripple. Let's use this ranged route. But in practice, can he actually get in against a character like Heimdall? I don't know that he can.
Blinking from Gino there towards the end. They did hit level 2 off that wave, and that put some pressure on. But it looks like Gino's health bar is just too low, and it's not going to matter. Neil Moore, who isn't supposed to be the hunter, landed that basic attack there to secure first blood, and the aggression came back and hurt eUnited.
And look, Snoopy has never felt worse about being a tiny little baby than he was at that moment. He got in position to body block the Heim autos, but not the Yamoja autos, and that's what ended up killing Gino.
Great little pick, though, early on then from PK. I was going to say, I think these laning phases could come down to individual players and their skill level, but also the influence of the junglers. More importantly, I think the solo lane, I think Des said this best more than anyone with Mifflin. They put the power in Tsukiyomi's hands of Baskin, so why not feed the hand that's hot and look towards Scream to gank that solo lane early to make sure Kakulin doesn't just nullify the potential pressure that could come out.
Well, because it's Kakulin, and ganking a Kakulin is you're just you're a rage bot. That you're standing there as a little target dummy for him to build rage off of you so that you can instantly get that transform.
Is he using the eUnited skin, by the way? He should be, because technically he's on eUnited.
That's true. That would have been good.
And he is a world champion, but Scaredy gonna get
he's dead
ganked
now.
as expected. But he did just hit level 3. Will that keep him up in long enough? No is the answer, as the Pouncer and Scream does a damn good amount of damage. And against 2 assassins, an early game warrior will struggle.
And Scary has to go, okay, no more dashing in. Understood. You know,
I've learned my lesson already.
Normally, you want to be able to jump in regularly as Kakulin. It lets you get your rage a lot faster. It's a huge part of your clear, but if we don't know where Scream is, that 3 key stays up. And that's kind of the way you have to play it in lanes like this. And that's really frustrating to deal with when you're supposed to be a pressure character, but you just can't give eUnited an easy win condition by continuing to jump in when Scream could be local.
So already, PK established a small lead on the left-hand side with First Blood going to Neil Mar and the duo lane, whereas on the right-hand side of things, there is a small lead there now developing for Baskin. Will those two collide in the worlds as it goes on? You're sure. Snoopy, though, at the moment on this Cupid, I really think every single one of these lanes, Ryan, could be action-packed, because I like the matchup in duo lane, funny enough. You know, the RTO and Cupid up against the Heimdall that can win or lose that lane, in my opinion, against those 2 hunters, with Yamoja there too. It was going to be a battle of affairs there, I feel.
It is, but I love the way that PK is itemized for it immediately. A sprint pickup for Neil Ma means that this Fields of Love, which was going to be a big deal to make sure that Gino can get in position in order to be effective and be a lot of the kill potential, of course, for this Cupid, is not going to be effective anytime Neil's around and that relic is up. So that's a great pickup that we don't really see enough these days. And I gotta say, we've seen so much Cupid prioritization. I mean, Mind the Gap was banning it every game against Space Station. It was banned by eUnited here, top picked by eUnited when both Persephone and Yamoja were open.
Yeah.
Not a fan. I think that there are hunters that do really well. Zap was dominant on the Apollo. He looks great on Heimdall. I don't think that there's that much of a difference between the Cupid and the Heimdall, I would have much preferred eUnited to go the direction of the Persephone or the Emoji.
I mean, you just can't give the other team both, in my opinion. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at with it. But I mean, the Cupid pick, that kind of tells me that eUnited are going to draft their Hunter pick. They value Cupid that highly. And that's just a nice little sign for PK if the set develops further, or the tournament goes on for eUnited, that they value Cupid that high over Yemoja. Does that mean Gino doesn't play it that much? Is that the reason? Persephone, has Hurriwind not really got it? Well, let's be honest, we know he has.
Yeah.
Because he was one of the first ones to bring it to the fray and cause some serious problems over a year ago.
Yeah, I think that Hur is still one of the premier Persephone players in the entire league, so that's not the question for me. It
Why
really
not give
is
it him?
that prioritization.
I guess that's the question. Why not give it him and draft the Cupid instead? It's so surprising.
I agree. That's what I'm saying, is that I think that would have been a better look for this eUnited squad. But if you're planning on going Giannis and you want your guy to get his pick, then I'm okay with that. If he was locking in ISIS again, we'd be having some words. But as it stands, I don't think I'm ever going to complain about giving Hurry this pick.
Definitely interested though what Paul can do with that ultimate from Persephone, because I think that could be a huge game changer in this one. The cripple that can be applied because of that, affecting not only Baskin, not only Scream and the Pounces, but Baskin too, on trying to continue the push into those team fights. Could be a tricky task for him to work around.
RDO really struggles against it. You don't have a whole lot of attack speed built into this composition, so it could be hard.
Rivers Rebuke, dropped by Neil, and it's Snoopy under pressure. Drops the field love, good dash away, but Cuvo held the ult nicely to make sure the chase was still available. And a nice clean pick there from PK.
Look, if PK is going to be there and force like that, Snoopy's got no options. At the very least, he forces a couple tools out of PK's hands. 2 ults for his one, and that sprint was used by Neil on top of that. That might set up a gank coming here from Gino and Scream.
Nice little stun option there from Neil Mo, just to make sure Gino couldn't continue the chase more than anything else. And Scream won't find any sort of result then, and a bit of farm on that left-hand side. Still even keel, though, against Cuvo Fred. And as you can see, just on this right-hand side, Baskin playing with a bit more confidence now that he got that early pressure gank. But it's still a tough time up against that Kukulin.
Yeah, you're not going to get a whole lot of lane bully potential up against Kukulin, who's usually the one doing that for you. But Scary did just use his ultimate as a way to clear the wave, get enough rage to transform. It's a very common tactic for Kukulin solo to be using that ultimate aggressively basically every time it comes up. Baskin's doing good work here, getting him low and setting up for a potential gank from Scream, but Scary should know that that's coming as well, and probably has enough gold to get a good reset off.
Gino now rotating to this right-hand side. eUnited look to try and continue the pressure through Baskin. And at the moment, though, I think PK senses there's some danger. 3 of them grouped up towards this middle area to keep an eye out, but it looks like they're going to give up the goose and allow eUnited with the pressure to take away that blue buff.
And it's interesting because normally we think of Kukulin as this lane bully, as someone who's going to facilitate invades for your side. But funny enough, he's actually one of the better gods at giving up lane pressure and losing those blues.
Talking about pressure, it's Snoopy again, and he won't last long. Not a whole lot he can really do there as the wraparound happens again. Cuvo Fred and PK paying extra attention to this duo lane. They're not really worried about Baskin, I guess, with how this is played out, and they're going to lean on where they are strong currently.
And that's in this duo lane side. It's surprised to see such a rough start to the day for Snoopy because towards the end of the regular season, he was absolutely dominating in that long lane. He looked like he had really returned to form in ADC, and we already talked about how he was quiet in the last game and now off to an 0-2 start. The first kill feels pretty excusable to me. That one makes some sense, but that kill, I mean, Fred didn't do anything special. He didn't blink on him. He walked up quickly because it's Pele and just toed him. Lack of ward coverage, lack of communication, also a big deal. Not sure if Hurriwind was in mid, but if he was, that's got to be communicated. Knowing Hurriwind is a big communicator, I assume that it was. And if that's the result, if that's, if he's saying Fred's going bottom left, watch out left side of the map, Snoopy's got to respect that more.
Well, red buff just dropped down there, and you just saw, speaking of the blink you mentioned there, you saw a blink over the wall from Scary D towards those back harpies. I'm not against that, because if he goes there, blinks and finds Scream a little bit lower on health, there's a chance Scream's under pressure. And at the same time, what's he going to really do with the blink at the moment? It's not going to save him in combat at any time. There's no engagements coming soon there. Instead, though, PK now grouped up in mid, and Hurry's just going to have to turtle under the tower. eUnited are on the back foot, just on position alone right now.
They've got that global pressure, though, from the Giannis at any time that they can get to any fight necessary, and you see some pings coming out on this blue buff. To expand on what I was saying earlier, the reason that Kukulin is so good against pressure comps in solo is because he doesn't suffer from losing the blue buff. He doesn't use mana, so it's not a big deal for him to lose that blue, whereas you look at a character like Vamana or Wukong, if you're consistently invading those blues, they're going to fall behind because they have to go back to base. They don't have enough mana sustain. Cullen, for that reason, are much better in situations like this, and I think it's a smart draft from PK to recognize that, okay, they're going to put a Tsukiyomi over here. That means they're likely going to try and put pressure on me.
Confidence in Zap there, loaded enemy territory, but he knew he had reinforcements behind him, and here they come marching on again. Red buff about to spawn, and Snoopy looking for a bit of damage with the heart bomb. Does connect with Zap though, that'll hurt a little bit. Space and time connects,
wow.
But it's not enough to kill Zap just yet. Cancel that on the stable Vortex will, as Hurriwind picks up a kill. Beautiful rotation, and you called it, Ryan. Keep an eye out for the Giannis rotations.
That's... How is he? I don't get it, man. I love this Giannis character. I love him, and never in a million years can I think, okay, so I'm just gonna hit my snipe off a heart bomb stun. I mean, that is absurd timing from Hurriwind right there, and it's perfect timing for him as well because using your ultimate in the early game, it's a fairly long cooldown. Now, he's got more.
All in trouble in mid against Gino. In comes Cubo though, and still Paul survives, or does he? Because the pounce from Scream will chase him down. Nice pounce back too, just to reset. The portal down and Cubo's life deleted, but still alive. Scream can't get in range. Baskin now rotating on Tsukiyomi though as Paul falls down in trade. And under the tower is Neil Moore that may end up falling down to the pressure of the assassins. What's that across the table then? 2 for 2?
Yeah, 2 for 2 in total. You got Gino falling there, both mid and support falling for both teams. Surprised that Hurry was willing to be so aggressive, knowing that Paul's got nowhere to be except hitting you in the mid lane. He's dead, so he can still get that damage off, and that's where Persephone gets so much value. But a great rotation in from Baskin, getting himself a lead. His little micro movement in order to get out of range of the Emoja stun and then step up and still hit that Kasarigama and get the stun onto Neil Ma, secure that kill, was really good. But the way that eUnited's playing again in the early game, I really like their aggressiveness. I like Gino being willing to get on top of Paul and understand, I'm going to eat an ultimate. I'm going to take a lot of damage. But you still know that he's willing to do that because his life is worth less than that of that Persephone. Like the way that Gino's playing so far.
eUnited's doing a good job this game. I think the last couple of minutes, these last couple of segments, have really shown that they can battle back into it, because left-hand side, they pick Zap, then that play towards the middle lane from the aggression from PK, and again, PK on the aggression. Can eUnited answer back again?
A little surprised they don't want to take this fight, but I think it's because Scream is so low on mana. Hurry's been able to get his second relic since hitting level 12, and even though his beads are down, he's got that shell. Paul's beads are down, doesn't have a second relic quite yet. But even with that power spike, Scream being so low on mana, he hasn't reset since that last fight, and that's what opens up double buff invades.
Red buff invade going through as Gino blinks and finds a stun. Paul under pressure with no beads, remember, as the Cupid damage comes through. It's not enough to kill Paul just yet. On the backside though, Cupid Fred is eating dinner. There's people starving. At least Cupid is now. Cubo will get away as well as Hurriwind can't find the damage out. The solo lanes were rotating in too little too late. But there's still an opportunity for PK to look at the gold here to make that even more worthwhile. So smart from PK, because that is not a favored fight if Scream has backed. That's the only difference between a favored fight and an unfavored fight there for PK. Scream being too greedy with his farm, staying on the map too long, means he's low on mana. He hasn't spent the gold. He gets a heavy mace. That's a huge difference in damage than he would have had in that fight. He would have killed Cuvo before Cuvo killed him with that extra flat pen that he had picked up at this point. It's just a bad back timing by Scream. eUnited is there in force. Gino gets a really good initiation. Paul's ultimate doesn't land. Hurry again magnetizes through space and time onto a backliner. That time he tagged Paul, but at the end of the day, PK had just gotten their backs off. They were stronger at that moment and utilize that advantage perfectly. You mentioned it in game one though, Cubo Fred had a good solid game one performance. Game two, he is locked in. You can see him in game one. I'm kind of like, yeah, but he's got an afro. Hang on a second though, because Pyroman's under threat, space and time fired, and PK get it, but Hurriwind takes out Cubo, gets some shutdown bonus, and slips the noose once more. Can Scary D chase? The answer's no. Hurriwind will survive, but the Pyro is down. Scary D though, now without his ultimate, under pressure from the damage of the three, as the assassins start to tear down the tanky targets. Paul needs some help, but will manage to flourish away. Back to the safety of his tower, or is it even safe there at all? In comes the River's Rebuke, and Neil says, no, not today. But that's still an Aegis out from Paul. Baskin has really showed up
with this Tsukiyomi and made it look awfully good. How did he take no damage from that tower, by the way? He took 6 or 7 shots, and you could barely tell.
Gino, though, still playing up against 2. Giannis is coming down the lane. It's Hurriwind.
Hello?
But Gino might get a solo there. For a second, I thought he might just do it. That could have been a turn for the Bucks. Hurry, though.
Hurry, no!
He'll get the kill, but can he get away again? Cubo Fred going to give chase. The slow won't be enough to slow down the chase from Cubo. And the answer back. Wow, Hurry's really on it today. I can see it already. He wants this so bad, though.
I love it, man, and he's popping. He has not missed anything this game. He really hasn't. He's level 15, top of the net worth charts, and for that reason, that kill doesn't feel that good for eUnited. But when you look at what Hurry got, he gets Cubo's ultimate, he got Cubo's beads because the threshold slow was well placed, and you still killed Paul. Not bad
And
overall.
If you actually look at what he did there, too, in a weird way, he'd probably type in chat unforked there.
Oh, yeah.
Because the jungler was just on that rotation path
He'd be
as
out.
it went on through. If Cubo wasn't there at that moment, Hurry was in and out and got himself a kill.
And you know what? Look at the game that Hurry had last time where he got to have 0 fun.
No participation,
Yeah, he
right?
did, yeah, he got to look through the black and white lens at what the rest of his team was doing all game. Can you blame the man for wanting to get in there and make some plays for his own? And he's doing it. Gino's doing it as well, man. I was watching that little clip, and I could instantly see the weekend clickbait YouTube title, RDO OP, 5 question marks. What was that damage that he was doing to Paul? He nearly soloed the man.
So, where are we at? 15 minutes in, 8-8, and PK did get a gold Fury. But it's pretty square. It's the goal difference at the moment that separates the two, I would say. Experience, even heal. But 1,600 gold, it's not a huge amount, but it's something to show that PK is still comfortable at the moment. Tower situation, though, a different story. I'm definitely favoring eUnited there with how things are looking.
Snoopy, again, under siege on this left-hand side. Purple buff has been the call, but Gino once more putting in excellent work. There's Zapsalt in trade for the Cupid ult.
Nice little work from Zap to escape, and now Cubo, Fred, and Paul hunted for kills. Space and time fired off, and as soon as those portals come through, PK run back towards their half. They're like, okay, that's it from there. We know there could be 1, there could be 2, or even 3, because Baskin was on the way to rotate in and make that a bad situation. A minute till the next Fury, however, and then I think the fireworks will begin.
And that's a totally worthwhile use of Hurriwind's ultimate. The man has full CDR at this point, plus a Chronos Pendant passive on top of that. You should be firing those ultimates off at the slightest hint of danger on that left-hand side, and he did just that. 25 seconds until that's back up. Fury not up for 45 seconds. Plenty of time for that high-value ultimate to come back up in time for the big fight.
We'll bring up real quick as this one feels to me that it could go a little bit longer with how it's looking right now. Scaling of these two compositions, is it one that outscales the other a little bit here, Ryan? On paper, looking at it from my point of view, kind of even?
I actually like eUnited's comp late more than I like Pittsburgh Knights comp late because eUnited has a lot of oops, we win conditions where you just get
Giannis ultimate,
a Giannis ultimate hits you, you group up too much for a Cupid ult. You've got a huge damage ultimate coming through from Bastet as well. 6-item Bastet damage is just preposterous. It shouldn't happen to backliners, what happens to them. And because of that, I like eUnited's potential to just blow the game open quickly. But PK scales well. It's not like if they go late, it's impossible for them to win. They've got the healing. They've got the River's Rebuke. Those are great late-game tools.
Well, right now, the Solar Lasers are on the march and roaming around a little bit more. Their towers are down. You can see them both getting into the fray right now. It's on the aggression as eUnited as Cubo Fred's health bar is dwindled down. He's still alive for now until Tsukiyomi will claim the life at the tail end, and the chase is on for the rest. Fields of Love traps Paul, gets a good stun off, but not enough to give chase. Meanwhile, it's Snoopy under pressure from Scary D. All focus on Scary D, who's frontlining as Kakullan does. Thorn's part reduces some of the pressure for a second, and that's enough to turn it around. eUnited's in favor, though. They get that pick on Cubo, and the Fury's up.
Neil is nuts, by the way. I mean, the River's Rebuke to split up that fight. The healing was fantastic, but look at this. Bait's trapped.
And Gino going to go for Zapman straight away, trying to get some sort of CC off as well. The Heart Bomb's good, but the Aegis was better.
Oh, hello.
Zap escapes, but walks straight into Scream, and the Bastet Claws of Death. Up, down goes Neil. Next up is Scary D. I had a feeling, you know, when I saw that game 1, that this could go 5. And right now, we're going to game 3 with knowing that nobody's going home that one.
Listen, hey, it's still not a gold lead yet for eUnited,
sure.
though. I mean, it's one good fight, Hindu, but they have to be able to get more than this. Look at the experience lead still for Zap over Snoopy. eUnited can't just win fights, but if they're going to fight like that, it's going to be hard to beat them. This dive is unbelievably difficult. And when Neil is rewarded for grouping everybody up, it makes it more difficult.
Gino trying to get away from Paul and Cubo Fred right now. Hurriwind there with some support. Looks like he did use a space and
Paul.
shot to the face. But Paul just read it perfectly. Cubo Fred with a beast though, all in a Hurriwind. If you use your portal, that's what can happen to you as a Giannis player. Oof.
Listen, I love Hurry's Giannis, but I kind of love watching Giannis players who use Portal aggressively get punished more. Perfect use of those beads and ult by Cubo Fred, and Hurry, no relics to speak of, so he's absolutely toast to that every time.
As soon as those beads get hit, it's that moment where it's like, and at this moment, he knew
He messed up.
it was over.
Yeah, there you go. That'll work
I was
too.
pausing, you know. Just
I
so
trusted, but...
Chat could type it and get themselves banned is what I was trying to do.
Oh, yeah,
I'm a
typical
genius
Hindu
like
man
that,
bait.
you know?
If that were Mifflin saying that, I would have cut you off.
Oh, you would
Way, I would
have.
have. So Sobek, that's where I would have gone.
So back. Pyromancer going to go down there for PK, though, to answer back again. This is a close endeavor, and funny enough, even though that Fury goes the way of United, even though they win that engagement, I was getting ahead of myself, PK have a gold lead still.
Yeah, it's not over by any stretch, but you see what eUnited's able to do in these team fights. You're able to split up the fight so much and end up making it very difficult for people like Yamoja to get real value. Or Persephone. I mean, who's she going to grasp of death? The one dude who's blinking across her screen? They go left to right, and that was the worst Giannis ult Hurriwind has had all game, and it was still fight winning because it just made it so impossible to team fight eUnited.
Fire Giant start up, Scary
Risky.
goes, and on come PK as well. Last of the fight will be Zapman, but the focus on Scary early. Portal uses the CC chain connects. It allows Scary to buy a moment to turn it around and find an ult of his own. Gino's trying to escape, but he walks into Cubo Fred, and Cubo Fred won't be able to find that instead. It's Scary D marching down and taking out carries, but Baskin's doing the same thing for eUnited. Scream under pressure, the Fire Giant will go down to Scary for a double, set up mainly there by Cubo Fred as the knockup comes through. And Cullen gets a triple kill right now.
And he's looking for more. Blink forward, Salmon Leap, not enough. Gino's out, and no way you're going to be able to chase down Hurriwind.
Hit one.
It's just this Cupid pick for Snoopy. He's too far behind. Scary D just gets on top of him right as he's transforming. I mean, Snoopy used ult, Snoopy used dash, Snoopy healed himself, Snoopy used shell, and Scary's full HP walking away from that fight. He's just not dealing enough damage to be able to handle this frontliner right now, and for all the great things that Giannis does, getting you out of those situations is not one of them. If Hurry's playing something like a Poseidon, you can Kraken him off of you. You can do a lot of different things. Giannis doesn't really have that.
No space and time available. Tell a Light just came back up for Hurriwind here.
Yeah,
Can Gino and Hurry steal this away? Zone work coming out from Cubo Fred. He's hunting for Hurriwind, trying to give him his call of when Hurry's coming. Hurry trying to hang on through that space and time as long as possible. Gino trying to give some vision, trying to keep Hurriwind up. Space and time fired way too early though. And now with the unstable vortex, that's all the damage through. But Snoopy's in the pit. The hard bomb won't find it. PK, get the FG. Gino now still whittled down and dead to Paul. But into the mix comes Scream.
Oh!
Low health bars on PK. But Cubo is there to turn it around.
And Cubo again, 6-2-5 out of the jungle for the Pittsburgh Knights player. And Hurriwind, hey, this is exactly what Finch was talking about. My man just cruising through the streets while the rest of his team is on the respawn.
They won't catch him, and I don't think they'll care, PK, there. I think they'll be quite happy with the fact they've got 4 members of the FG. Bit of a shame Zapman doesn't have it, though, because obviously having your Hunter with that Fire Giant just increases your ability to take down objectives a lot quicker.
Love the way that Gino plays that fight, though. I mean, he gives Hurriwind so much information. He buys so much time.
Great work, yeah.
Even though eUnited don't get that Fire Giant, I think that's about as well as they could have played that from that position. But you got to give credit to PK where it's due. They handle eUnited playing really well and still manage to secure the objective and still manage to get some kills, but you still feel like this composition from eUnited is one big Hurriwind ult away, one big screen flank away from being able to turn this game back in their favor. I don't think PK is really should be resting on those laurels quite yet.
No, I completely agree with what you're saying there too, because I do agree, we saw it a little bit earlier as well. Like, eUnited can go aggressive against PK and find some wins. They made that FG call, though, eUnited there. They were the ones that aggressed on it to begin with, that set up that whole tail of events that PK found a window to go and do the FG themselves. And that's twice now at FGs that has come back to haunt them. PK, though, going to use this Fire Giant buff. to whittle down some towers. 2 members mid that could get collapsed on here.
Perfect timing. Gino blinks in through space and time as well. Gonna clip Fred, but Scary D against the world.
It's Kukulin, man. How many years do we have to see him do it? 5v1. He's the man mountain that will always be a problem for teams to deal with. eUnited have to turn tail and walk to the right-hand side. And this just opens the door for PK to take it here too. And and the Gold Fury that is available, and more importantly, it's not a Gold Fury, it's the Oni Fury, which is going to keep the pressure rolling.
Listen, you know what the D in Scary D stands for, don't you?
Am I waiting for Twitch chat here again?
No, yeah, we can get some bans in there, but it's Scary Diff, of course. That's what he's been doing to these team fights basically every time, because you just don't have that traditional mage burst. Now look at where Scream has built. He's gone into the Brawler's Beat Stick a little bit later than it probably should have been, but he got it eventually. And now he has the Titan's Bane. This should be enough to be able to take down Scary, but that's where Thorns comes in. Thorns just acts as a real deterrent for someone like Scream trying to all in this Kukulin.
And Cupid and Tsukiyomi too, right?
Yeah, I mean, what do you do against that relic? That's why a lot of backliners are not having a great time right now, and that's why these dive compositions are so prevalent, because it just makes it so much easier. Your threshold to kill is so much lower whenever their only way to get you off of them is by dealing damage, and by dealing damage, they're killing themselves.
How's the siege for PK though? Because that's what we're getting to now. The Phoenixes are going to be the last remaining thing really for eUnited to hold on to here. What's the situation there? Are eUnited good on D for this?
Not really. PK's siege is okay. I would give them a 5 or 6 out of 10. There's nothing wild on it that can do it, but it's good enough to get the job done. The big deal is the Emoji ult that you're going to have to watch for. The big deal is the Emoji sustain you have to watch for. It's almost like someone should take Emoji away from Neil Ma, but that's a topic for a different time. It's really that eUnited has very poor siege defense. They don't have great wave clear. Snoopy isn't exactly a great wave clearer with stupid. Hurriwind doesn't want to be in that position because he wants to be trying to lob unstable vortexes over the wall or setting himself up. You'll see Hurriwind oftentimes, if they're sieging right Phoenix, you'll see him actually curve into left side jungle and try and get an ultimate that's going to hit both backliners from a better angle than from his own base. So without either of your backliners being really great wave clearers, it makes it difficult to stop a siege.
I'm not going to count a team out though that's got to be honest, that's for sure. Especially around the FG, especially on defense too, because there's been a couple of times we've seen Space and Times connect onto siege and teams that has annihilated and spun the game around. And you know what? The longer the game goes, the more that could be more impactful if that ends up happening.
And look, Scary's not getting that much tankier from here, right? He's level 20, he's full build, he'll get a 3k defense prod at some point.
Target, right?
Right, but you are going to be able to handle him eventually. Snoopy's going to get a lot more damage from here. Hurriwind is going to get more damage from here. He's still got an item to go. So you're going to be able to handle this Kukulin better as the game goes on. I think that eUnited, the longer they can stall this out, the better, because again, they have those oops I win conditions.
I just want to show you as well, he's still 14-40, but Gino is being all-in right now. He's not getting support, he's already dead. A lot of ultimates invested by PK, but is it worthwhile is the question, especially around the FG. Can eUnited do anything about this? PK are trying to push him back.
Great portal by Hurriwind. Baskin has to use the beads because Riptide was on point.
What time of that was, I mean, honestly, the beads and the Riptide were both amazing.
They were really good, and look at where Hurriwind's going. Good ward in lane here by PK, because if I'm Hurry, I'm looking down this corridor. You know PK only has so much space to work with.
Fire Giant could be looked at by PK now as all 5 members head back. No, Gino not available. Makes it a trickier task for eUnited to step foot there. They don't have really tanky options outside of Baskin, but it is an assassin after all, so he's the one that has to face check. He's the one that has to show Hurriwind the way, and can he find it? Fire Giant held at about half as Scary re-aggresses. Nice little Riptide from Neil, keeping Baskin aggressed upon. The portal usage though, used thanks to Hurriwind to support him, but the ultimate forced by Baskin. Space and time used, and it was all for Zap, but Zap read the script. He hit the Aegis, and he stands tall.
Neil Ma a little bit low, but has those heals. Here comes Fred. Snoopy, nowhere to go, but the dash comes back up, and Baskin puts him down.
We're still going, but Scary's not had enough. Gino back into fray too. A Scream pounces back. Paul's low on health. Scary low on health. But Gino's looking for Neil Mara will get hold of the kill. Next on the list could be Scary D as the eUnited start to collapse on down on the Kukulin. The man mountain has fallen, and maybe now it could be pressure again in the jungle. Paul's dead.
Hurriwind just goes, yeah, I'll be taking that, please. Enemy mid laner right on top of his head top. Or dead all of a sudden for PK. And you were right to call it. That was a great Aegis by Zapman. I thought that was going to be the fight turner because all of the Piercing Moonlight got Aegis pretty much. Through Space and Time got Aegis, but again, eUnited just fracture this team fight. And Fred, poor guy, makes one mistake all set and instantly gets punished for it. He goes too deep. Snoopy ends up surviving this time around, able to put out enough damage to keep himself up and get that lifesteal going, and then ends up making the rest of PK come into a spot where they can't really be the aggressors. The big deal here for PK is whether or not eUnited is going to hold this FG. I think if I'm eUnited, I'm getting it down to a sliver of HP, setting a big zone and trying to secure the enhanced Fire Giant. Nope, they're going to play it safe. Not a bad play by any means, but that would have been a great buff for them.
It could have been, yeah, just to give that extra little bit of boost as well, but at the same time, why not just keep this pressure rolling now as the respawns are coming through, I guess,
Good
is the
point.
thought process here.
Even giving an enemy team like PK 30 seconds to say, okay, how do we want to set it up? Screen's probably going to go mid. Baskin's probably going to go mid. How do we want to defend Phoenixes? That's really valuable time in situations like this, and especially when a team is winning, and then you counterpunch, get an objective, they're a little bit frustrated, what happened, still talking that over. The more that you can keep that pace up, don't let them breathe, don't let them think about what to do next, that is valuable time. Now with the reset, they're going to get all that time necessary, but in a situation like that, that can happen.
Oh, look at those bases and all those purchases coming through from eUnited. They needed that gold badly because they are behind in gold right now, eUnited. Space and Time Fire maybe? Cheeky one from Hurry? Nope, it won't.
No coverage.
Just keeping an eye on that minimap.
Could do it now.
Was there. They could, but I don't think they need to because as I was saying, they've got an opportunity to take down the tier 2 mid, tier 2 left-hand side too, even that gold up and get those 6 items online, the same as what PK already have.
And look at the difference in how much harder it's going to be for someone like Scary to get into that back line and survive now because Hurriwind all of a sudden has an Obsidian Shard. All of a sudden Snoopy has chin size. All that health that he's built, courtesy of that Stone of Gaia and other things in his build, don't really feel that good whenever they're just extra HP for that chin size to chew through. I like eUnited's chances at handling this Kakullan much better for me.
PK are posturing aggressively as Neil gets aggressive. Wow. Blinkins from Scary D2. Who's the focus target? It's going to be Gino again, who will fall. But now the collapse from eUnited back into the fray. Baskin looking at the backline with Scream. Gets hold of Kiro Fred, but Zapman annihilates Baskin. Scary D gets hold of Snoopy. Carried down from either side there. And PK hold the line to an extent, I would say. 3 members lose the Fire Giant from eUnited. We're going to be here a while with this game.
Feels like it, man. And Gino, poor guy, is just getting everything dumped into him, and he just doesn't have the itemization to really handle it. Eventually, that play will not work. And you don't normally say that about killing supports 31 minutes into the game, but it's getting to the point now where Gino will get a little bit too tanky. Hurriwind's Through Space and Time did some good work, but I think that from here on out, he almost has to hold Snoopy's hand, which is really awkward because normally Hurriwind wants to be playing like an assassin and getting in and out of the jungle, but giving Snoopy portals away from Scary D might be more important than hitting a priority target at this point.
Well, that was a priority target there on Paul for a second.
All right, see ya.
PK go, okay. Don't like the look of that with Paul at half health. We'll just limp back into the
No way.
Space and Time Fire, look at the ball! And he gets it, but it's not going to be enough for a kill. Instead, Paul turns around to try and buy time. Beats came out to keep the aggression going, but it wasn't going to be enough. That was not enough. I can't believe that didn't kill him.
It's the Mantle of Discord. Mantle of Discord there for Paul that ends up being the difference
Defensive
maker.
items on mid laners again, huh?
Yeah, OP.
Support items OP. We got to buy them ourselves.
Oh, remember when Artio nearly soloed Paul earlier? That's why he needs the Mantle of Discord, not for the Yasuo,
Listen,
but
I
for
got
the
an
tanks.
Artio against 45 guys there that just nearly died, okay? And you're like, yeah, he can't tank it, but you guys can tank a Space and Time. Get out of here.
Listen, I'm down to make every mage one-shot each other. That's the way. That's what all is right in the world. And Gino's working towards a mantle. That is going to be a huge deal. Wonder if something like a Magi's would have been worth it for him up until this point. You don't really want to delay your mantle, but just making it so that you don't get one-tapped by this Grasp of Death and have really no options. In the way that Neil is using that River's Rebuke is oftentimes to make sure that they can't break Gino out. When you're just hitting a tank with Grasp of Death, your teammates can just auto-attack it. Well, not my teammates, but in a competitive setting, they're going to be able to do that. Auto-attack it and break him free, but with that River's Rebuke there, no one's able to stay in range in order to do that, so that's why this has been so effective. Once this mantle's completed, though, Gino will break free once he hits that threshold either way. It cleanses all CC when that proc goes off. I think that might be a little bit more awkward for PK at that point.
Not really spoke about Hunter builds, but I did see the fail knot was picked up by Zapman there, replacing his boots too. And with how that's playing out there, you mean double shield comp for Zap here, kind of expected when he's against this many assassins to deal with that are looking to dive him.
Yeah.
Whereas Snoopy on the other side, a little bit different, but it does look like he's going for some defense now. The mantle, is that going to be?
Probably mantle, yeah, just something to get Scary off of him. I mean, give me some space. I wonder if Berserker Shield would be better in this spot, because I think that we're at the point where some extra lifesteal and just the ability to eat through those thorns via damage might be what he needs. I think if you give Scary enough time on top of Snoopy, he's going to kill you either way. So maybe trying to get some more damage in there with also some tankiness at the same time could have done the job a little bit better. But Mantle's an item that you're never going to see any carry player complain about having, because it just feels so good whenever you get a melee character, like even a Pele off of you. When you factor in the Pele, I think Mantle probably is better.
First Fire Giant that's enhanced now on the map and available. And this is still an even game. There's one tier 2 tower remaining between the two teams total. And it won't last long if eUnited do push down that mid lane and get the opportunity. But it could come down to this, and in open warfare, we're looking at Neil for the engagement with the Riptides, we're looking at Gino with the Blink Stuns, and also those space and times from Hurriwind. They're the focal points here.
Red buff is up for eUnited, and boy would Scream or Hurriwind love that. Those are huge difference makers in the late game, because remember, red buff is a percentage of your power. Getting those late means you're getting a lot more power from those options. Wouldn't mind to see Hurriwind head over there, especially with the Oni Fury coming up. If you can do something like grab red and oracles, make sure you have perfect information on if someone like Zap is trying to solo away that Oni Fury, makes you feel a lot better.
Using the cats there, screaming mid, just to give some vision into the jungle angle of how many members of PK are there. I'm looking at the Oni Fury that just came up too, and I'm just wondering, is that bait by going to an Oni Fury at the state of the game, or would that change things? Because the Oni Fury minions have such an impact at this stage.
I think it is a bait, but look at this. Scream already blinked and ulted. Oh, what a stun!
Gino was round the back too, trying to set something up, but no health bars dropping on nice at all. Space inside by the Scream goes on through, but his health bar's non-existent. Same time though, Hurriwind could die here. The field of love helped him out, but it won't be enough. Hurry claims the life of Kimo Fred after already dying. What? Now Scaredy marching on down towards Gino, who can't do much on his own. And that just leaves Snoopy. That just leaves Baskin. Snoopy comes in to help out against Gino, but by doing so, Snoopy could be the focal target. Chase still on for Gino, though. A weird, crazy engagement by eUnited.
What a blink stun by Gino, but he has to get Onk off in that moment. That was a huge deal that he didn't get that Onk off, made sure that all the extra healing coming through from Neil was much more effective. That's a fight that eUnited should be able to win, just based off Gino's play alone, and Scream. Scream played it really well, but it ended up going in at the exact time that everyone had just slammed Beads Aegis. If Scream had a little bit more patience in that moment, which is impossible to do for the record. If your support yells 4-man stun and you've got a Bastet pounce with ult up
and space and time,
you are a literal psychopath if you don't pull the trigger. But you kind of get punished for doing it on top of that. If Scream would have gotten damage onto Paul in that moment, I think PK, the game might have been over. I think that flank from Gino and Scream was that good.
I will say though, at the same time, when we saw that engagement go off, when I looked at the health bars of PK, all I saw was shields. And there is only 2 shields in this game. There's the shell, and there's the one that comes out from Mending Waters, which tells you that Neil Mar was big in the fray there for sure.
And that's where the Onk would have been so much better, right? Because that matters in that moment as well. So Gino really needed to get that Onk off in that moment. And you hate to call out the guy who just got a 4-man stun and should have won his team the game off of it, but that was the difference, I think.
Well, what happens next is the question. The Fire Giant is still up. The Oni Fury, though, went down, and PK did get a Phoenix in the mid lane, which makes the pressure back on eUnited. They've got to keep an eye on that. The good news is they do have members of the team like Giannis that can be back farming and still influence the fight at the FG if needed.
And look at the relic situation for eUnited. They actually have a lot of upgraded relics, whereas Paul has not upgraded his relics, so his are going to be coming down.
What's he doing with that gold?
Well, he bought a Staff of Mirrodin. That's what he did with that gold. Got an Elixir of Speed, sold the boots, and got himself some more pen, some more cooldown, and a whole lot of damage, and a pretty cool passive to go along with it. So that is something that if eUnited, that's such an impossible thing to do at this point. You kind of have to assume that everybody's relics are upgraded, so now all of your timers shift up. But as it stands, eUnited really didn't lose that much. Mid Phoenix isn't a huge deal. They can clear that out, especially with someone like Giannis, as you highlighted.
See those pings left, though. That's an Oni Fire Wave, man, and someone's going to have to deal with that, too. I know eUnited are posturing well here, but I'm worried about that lane.
Have to be. It's
Giannis
only
is going back,
it's got to be Hurriwind at this point. And he can get a full set of wards as well. It doesn't feel that bad knowing that he can show up quickly. But PK are going to react once they see him.
What a time for a space and time to
He's gotta
hit
go
home
left.
here, right? Like, he's got to go left. He can't think about this fight just yet. The FG's not under threat just yet. Does he know is the question? Rasmidef used, Baskin forced to use his ult defensively to get away. And PK like that. Cubo Fred goes straight in on Scream. And the jungler takes out the jungler. In comes Hurriwind though, late to the party. Had to be so. Clear out those Fury minions. But the FG could be under pressure even more. Gino is buying as much time as he can. Ring around the roses, but at the end of the day, you still fall down unless you're going to blink like that. Maybe he's out. Giannis for the support.
Coming, portal up. Huge portal from Hurriwind. That should have been good for eUnited. I mean, you got two of the huge ultimates down. Rivers Rebuke, Grasp of Death, they didn't get that much value. And then Scream just gets 1v2'd by Fred, which really cannot afford to happen. I don't know if he just didn't, he had beads, it looked like to me. Didn't use them, maybe his jump was down at the time, but you just can't let that happen. You gotta make a play in that situation.
This game's been great. This is a really good game. And because of that, I'm just like, I'm still don't guarantee that the team's winning this a 3-0 here. PK looking confident and in position to do a 2-0 so far, with that middle Phoenix still being down. It's about to respawn.
Coming up soon, and that wave will push. So they still have at least 2 fire waves to deal with coming through in mid, and this is where that bad clear comes into play for eUnited.
Like the little riptide from Neil there saying, no, Scary, don't go too aggressive, but then Scary goes back in, makes sure the Phoenix falls on the right-hand side. That middle one is respawning. Minion wave on the way, but that right one going down for me is a bigger tale of problems that eUnited are having to deal with now.
Right, I mean, you saw how scared they were to go in that moment. It's because their siege is so, their siege defense is so poor, and it's not going to get any easier. I mean, PK's about to go back, buy elixirs. Zap just got an elixir. So did Cubo Fred. That's scary.
You know one thing I've missed all year is the player cams, right? And you can see the player cams at the bottom. The smiles developing on those PK faces. Little bits of giggles in the chat. They're feeling the wind beneath their sails here. They're starting to sense blood in the water and realize that this game 2 is looking good. It's not over yet.
Not over yet. And look, eUnited still has that oops, we win condition. I mean, Scream is full 6 slotted.
I love oops, we win conditions, just so you know.
They're fun to play with, not to play against.
Oh, no, play against and you lose.
It feels
to
really
like,
bad,
are you kidding me?
No, I mean, if Hurry somehow hits both backliners through space and time, I mean, at this point, if Scream ults, blinks, and twos one of these carries, they have to Aegis, or they just die to the pounce damage. You've got a lot of options right now in order to get these carries off the map.
Keep an eye on Gino, looking for the blink engage to the backline. Look at Zap stepping up to try and get this tower damage on, the Phoenix damage on if he needs it. More importantly, where's Neil's Riptides? Because they've been on point pretty much so far today. Right-hand side, Cubo going to split push a little bit here. Try and get these fire minions developed on the right-hand side and open up the pressure onto EU.
Worth noting, PK did not do a good job of shoving up this left-hand wave. Their only option is to fight, and if I'm eUnited, I might just give this.
The wrap around towards middle Phoenix, it's already dead. Scary in there with Neil looking towards Snoopy, who got left alone, but Baskin got hold of Zapman, and Zapman died quick. What else is developing though on the backside of Snoopy does fall. Carries off the map. Assassins to rule the roost. Paul needs help. Will he get it?
He will from Neil Ma, of course. And here comes Scary and Fred. No ultimates available for either one, but Baskin pretty low on resources, stun off the mark.
Are gonna make an impact for Baskin to stay alive for now. And the cripples
what
of
a
the
body block
from Gino. Now we're still holding on by the skin of our teeth here at Pittsburgh, or eUnited, but Pittsburgh Knights, they're tanky enough to look for this Phoenix without Zap.
And they've got insane damage. Blink in onto Paul. Great heal coming from Yamoja, but he's out of Omi.
And Cubo Fred going to the back as well. Scream's going to be careful. Baskin looking at it again. Phoenix goes down, and as soon as it does, PK goes, we got what we wanted. Let's turn tail. eUnited, they're going to give chase. You know why? Hurriwind is here, and Hurriwind's ult is coming up. This might be eUnited's last hope, in my opinion, to run it down and make the play. Look at Scream's positioning. Grasp of Death misses. That's actually quite big. He's already going to go for it. Here we go. Will it hit anybody?
Neil Ma, the only one. They don't take it because their Titan is getting eviscerated. Snoopy's up in 8. He's going to have to do it all, and he doesn't have an Odysseus bow, so it's not going to be easy. That means the rest of eUnited has to back up.
The Winions may just close this one out on their own with how that was looking there. Scream gets him to Cubo Fred, but Cubo's still alive and will survive. And now PK running into the base to claim game 2. Unless eUnited could do the impossible under this situation. Mid lane, the Rivers Rebuke comes down, trapping poor old Snoopy again. The Titan will fall, and the game will go the way of Pittsburgh Knights.
What a game from both of these squads. I mean, plenty of action. We saw both compositions really do what they wanted to do. But Graham, I don't know how you play these 2 games and you end up on any conclusion besides Neil cannot have Yamoja anymore. He has been the absolute difference maker in these games. As great as Scary played, as great as Cuvo played, I don't think PK stays in this game without Neil's Yamoja.
I don't think there's ever going to be enough bans to satisfy people because this just the players are just too good.
Yeah.
And this is the time of the that you want as a player to put on your best performances, to pull out your all. And PK right now, they're doing just that. They did it last year. They may be doing it again. After the break, we'll be back with Game 3.
Welcome back to the SWC at home. And if this set is any indication, boy, are we in for a good week. And if you want to enjoy some of that fun somewhere else than just at home, then I'll let you know the pro teams and some of the teams that are available here at hi-rez, like the teams that bring you your favorite game, are going to be available for you to ask some questions. Discord.gg/SMITE game. I think I got that one right. Yeah, exactly right. Go do that. You can ask questions, maybe even hang out a little bit, a way for you to feel like you're still at hi-rez Expo, even though we all have to do this at home. So obviously still me, Finch, here, but I also have Mifflin still with me here on the desk as well. And Miff, what a game that one was. Went way past the 40-minute mark. I don't know if I want to say lead changes, but certainly it felt as though momentum changes throughout the entirety of that game as well. Hurriwind put in a crazy performance, even in a losing effort. But Miff, I know you get your MVP. Let me hear about it.
Look, chat, I'm going to speak directly to you now. Whichever camera I have to look at, is this for you guys, Smite Game? It's gonna be Scary D, right? This man single-handedly not only killed the Titan with the help of some minions, but also zones 5 members of eUnited regularly.
Yep.
He's finding kills constantly, creating infinite space. The only one I think to also put Hurriwind in the dirt as well. Scary D, the front line for PK as a whole as well. Neilma has a fantastic performance.
Yep.
Played out of their minds.
They absolutely did, didn't they? Scary D made Kakulin look like a must-pick in this game to me. There were times when 5 people, as you said, were running away from him, but I'm glad we're doing this. I asked him back there, could we possibly still get a Hurriwind highlight reel, even though it was a loss? My man played absolutely nuts on this pick, hitting all of these ultimates. He even did the little things right, I was saying back there, providing portals to get his teammates out. He said to us beforehand, you gotta respect my Giannis, and even though it's an L, I think that's true.
I think he earned the ban. This takes balls, by the way, what he does here. He portals in behind the tower with 3 enemies sitting there, says, I'm getting my kill. It cost him his life in the end, but absolutely fantastic play from Hurriwind across the board. If PK isn't going to ban Giannis, I think it's just disrespect at this point.
My man's playing lights out, but what about the way that PK performed? I've got 3 names for you, and those are the 3 names you got to find some way to beat if you want PK to go down. Scary D, Hugo, Fred, and Neil Ma. Those guys all played nuts in that order. But in particular, Scary D was absolutely a monster this game. And I don't just mean when that rage transformation happened. There were fights where it looked like this game was over, but for Scary D and what he was able to pull off.
Yeah, Scary D, man. I always want to say his name over and over. It's really all I want to say is because he did that much throughout the entire duration of this match. At points, it felt like he was the only one being the difference maker. He would go into the enemy backline, pick up a kill himself, and then rejoin his team to pick up a couple more. He was making short work of the opposition.
And I don't know if eUnited can make the adjustments necessary in these picks and bans. I think as a starter, you cannot let them have Persephone and Yamoja. For what it's worth, Paul was whiffing some ults this game, still having a tremendous impact. But really, Neil Ma was absolutely lights out too with these heals. Some of these ultimates flat out saved the game because eUnited's game plan clearly was to have this Bastet and this Tsukuyomi decimate the backline of PK. And sometimes they did, but the times they didn't, Neil Ma and Scary D were on the way.
What does eUnited do now, Finch? How much deeper into the bag of tricks can you go? Tsukuyomi solo, Bastet out of the jungle, Giannis out of mid. That's as closely associated to each one of these individual players as I think you can get. Do you have more tricks? Is there something left in the hat to pull out? I'm not sure. And PK, I'm sure they're feeling confident.
Yeah, you sit down next to your friend in Smash, you load up your main, and it gets crushed. I don't know how you move on from then, right? It is tough to do, but that is the job that faces eUnited here. Let's move into the picks and bans for game number 3 to get our answer, because Miff, it's absolutely going to be tough. I mean, obviously, I think if you're Hurriwind, you can go back to the Giannis. It looked so good in that game.
Please.
Time after time after time. I even think Scream had some really brilliant moments in that one too, but maybe there's some other adjustments that had to be made. On eUnited's side, what was your big kind of correction you'd say?
Ban Yamoja? I mean, that's just about it. I think Yamoja has to go with Neil Ma playing as well as he did.
Hell,
maybe
Yamoja
even ban
Afro,
Kakulin,
maybe, right?
something along those lines. Yeah, let that one through, okay? I mean, Yamoja and Kakulin doing so much work. eUnited was close to winning that game. They could run back the exact same draft, piece for piece, every piece individually, and I'd be happy. I mean, they were that close to winning every single engagement.
I'm glad you said it. I don't want to make it sound like eUnited got like they weren't competitive. There's no way this game goes 43, 44 minutes and they're not, right? eUnited had some excellent moments. There's this fight over near the tier 2 and left that comes to mind, to Fire Giant fights, where priorities were established, right? Where Baskin and Scream were able to get back there and punish Paul right away, where they were able to get to the back line and cause the havoc, get rid of that man right away. And that's what that draft, I think, was meant to do, was for those guys to create all that space. It's just that occasionally they ran into an actual brick wall with the name Scary D on the front of it, and there wasn't much about it they could do.
And the D stands for diff. I'm not sure if I've said that enough times already,
case,
but it is the D does stand for diff this time around. And take a peek at the bans, Finch.
I'm not a fan.
I think we lost the thread a little bit. How are you going to let Yemoja through one more time? They can still do the other ban. They can take the pick ban, but either way, PK is going to get one of them, Afro or Yemoja.
Yeah, it's feeling like they're leaving quite a bit open here at this point. So United's got to show me they've got a stretch forward. And I think we got to make sure we're hammering in again. It's kind of like you said, there were some 50-50 moments in this game where either team could have won. So even if it ends up, like you said, as a straight run back, I can't be too angry, but look at this. PK feeling some pressure like they got to ban the Aphrodite this time. I think that makes a little bit of sense, but now you give Gino Yemoja exactly like this. This is the best spot eUnited's ever been already.
Yeah, I'm liking this a ton for eUnited, but let's talk about Gino for a second. That RDO was amazing. Yeah, solo him under tower at the 6-minute mark on his own, not to mention the body blocks he was able to find in the late game. Gino is playing mechanically lights out right now, and now let's see what he could do on a top pick like Yemoja. I think it's going to be huge.
There was a long time where we knew Gino was that next man up as soon as he wanted to. I think that was the only deterrent, was maybe he just wasn't ready yet. Now that he is, we're seeing the mechanical skill. What did Aggro absolutely nail, by the way? RDOP is the YouTube title. That's great work by him. As now we see this Giannis coming back in again. And right now, Myth, this is the best I felt about eUnited's chances. That Giannis now kind of bolstered by the best Guardian in the game.
Yeah, and match it with a Rom as well, one of the best late-game hunters in the game. I think eUnited to come away with a far and away better draft this time around, but how are they going to tie it together? What are they going to throw into the jungle? What's Baskin pulling out of the backpack this time to try and close out this match? Tsukiyomi brought a lot of pressure in the last game, but they did sacrifice a bit of frontline. I want to see him on something tankier this time around.
And they're going to have to deal with the Guan Yu. I don't think we've quite done service to how strong that pick is right now. The slow on the 2 is egregious. The Taolu Assault does so much damage. Obviously, he can heal, and there's almost no better initiation in the game than Guan Yu's ultimate, right? He's got so much at his disposal, and he's beefy, that I think we kind of overlooked just how strong a pick this is. Guan Yu, Persephone, Apollo, not a bad way to start at all.
It really isn't. And we didn't even bring up the defense shred that Guan Yu's able to afford, and so it makes objectives that much easier to clear, especially when you've got the Z-Man on his Apollo, right? This is going to be a pretty icy game for him. But in the second phase of bans, we're making some slight adjustments. PK, that's interesting. The Wheelish ban, maybe worried about what Scream's looking at.
This makes sense. There have been times where Scream has gone to this, especially with Yemoja here on this team, where you might not want to have to deal with this Wheelish from him. It's been a great pick of his in the past. So take that away from him. I think that's pretty heads up. And then they're also banning this Cthulhu. I'm not so sure Basket would have necessarily gone to this, but you do not want to deal with another Guardian with that much teamfight presence.
I think it's a really smart ban. Descent into Madness would fill out United's draft already perfectly. A CC center, a tanky frontline. Baskin would still be able to make the difference almost completely on his own. We saw the damage output that Cthulhu was able to get in a set earlier today. So I like what PK does in the second phase. eUnited finally rounds out their 10th ban with the Kepri. That's a good takeaway. I like it a lot.
Yeah, that's something that certainly PK would have liked to have, that additional life on the battleground to go along with the one Persephone already has. Certainly wouldn't have been bad for them at all, but they still have some decent options at that support pick, and they do go with one of the better ones of that. The Sobek can give great potential in lane, and his team fight presence is nothing to shake a stick at either.
And Sobek's got a decent matchup in Yanis. Anyone who has a knock-up up against Yanis is going to be great. You find the pluck at any point, the follow-up should be there. Yanis shouldn't be allowed to touch the ground, kind of similar to how Pele was trying to operate in the last game. So I like this a lot for PK. And again, it's a much more standard draft from the PK boys, whereas eUnited, digging deep into their pockets, Scream Ratatasker, that's filthy.
I like this. This might be the first time we've seen Scream come out with the early game directly in mind, and that's what this pick feels like to me, right? Using this Ratatasker and how strong he is, even pre-level 5, but certainly with that ultimate and his ability to take over matches. We'll talk about the Tsukiyomi here for Baskin in a second, but how do you like this Nemesis coming in late?
I like Nemesis in general just as a blanket statement, but up against this composition, I think Nemesis is going to struggle a little bit, and you really want your jungler to be able to jump onto the Yanis. Can Yanis really, or can Nemesis rather, really chase down that god? It's going to be very difficult. He's got the slow immunity, the ability to go through walls straight up. I think it's going to be really hard to lock down Hurriwinds.
Whose job is it going to be to keep tabs on him? Maybe Guan Yu can do it, but even still, there's no one particularly adept at making up for his escaping through walls. Not a ton of gods that can keep up with him. That's what makes Giannis in Hurriwind's hands. Let me say that one more time. In Hurriwind's hands. I don't want you
Really
all
good.
to go home and lock in Giannis. That god's not that great unless you're Hurriwind.
Yeah, agreed completely, man. If you're Hurriwind, it's what did Aggro say? Double S tier, something like that. Otherwise, I'll put it in F tier, man. I don't want to see Giannis in any of my games, but unless your name is Hurriwind.
I have
If your name is
seen
Hurriwind,
you
it's okay.
streaming and the light leaves your eyes when a Giannis gets locked in. I can remember those moments clearly, man, and for good reason. This is a Hurriwind special for him. But now let's go back. Was Baskin Tsukiyomi good enough for you last game to where you're okay with this repick here again?
You will not catch me slandering Baskin's name in any capacity whatsoever. Woo Nee Kim
An
can
unfair
do
question.
no wrong, and don't you ever try and trap me again. That Tsukiyomi in particular looked so good, man. He was able to lock down the back line. He was somehow constantly in the front line, even though he wasn't even all that tanky. I think if he's going back to it, clearly he saw something that worked and something he wants to reprise.
I like this. I like that they're keeping some of the picks that really worked, and I think the Giannis and the Tsukiyomi are those examples, and then flat out upgrading everywhere else. Sure, Gino was popping off at the RDO. He's going to pop off even more with this Yemoja, right? I think that they've put themselves in a good spot. For me, the big question mark is how well does he play this Rat, and you've got a little bit of experience playing Rat on the world stage. I know you hate me saying that, but how do you like him in this position? Is he going to be able to outpace the Nemesis? I would think so, but is he what they need here?
I like Ratatasker into this draft because it's going to be much easier for this Giannis to find those long-range snipes. Not that Hurriwind needs any help.
He doesn't.
He doesn't. But he was hitting snipes off Heart Bomb last time around. Imagine a dunk into a stun from Ratatasker. I don't think anyone's feeling safe at any point on the map. Hurriwind could be in solo, and you could be inside your Phoenix on the duo side of the map. If Ratatasker hits you, I'd expect through space and time to follow up pretty quickly.
And it will be on its way. Another thought that I had, I felt maybe Zap was a little quiet in that last game. Some of that is double assassin, what he's supposed to do with Bastet and Tsukiyomi all over you. But I think this Apollo has been a great fit for him, even before he was kind of this meta pick that he is now. How do you like him here on this pick?
I think this Apollo pick is ingenious. Not only is he going to be able to mez off Tsukiyomi if he uses the ultimate to close gap, but even if he needs a little bit of additional defense to deal with this double assassin, the Ratatasker and the Tsukiyomi, the Mez gives you that. He sings, all of a sudden he's tanky. He can escape with his team. He's got CC immunity in the ultimate. He can go into the air and just hover around and wait for those resources to be used. If you're worried about a Ratatasker dunk, no better place to be than outside the playfield, riding around in a chariot, waiting for your own opportunity. And I think Zapman is a player that can utilize that very well.
He might even be able to match the rotations better than the Nemesis can, better than Kyovo right here with that Apollo, if that's what he chooses to do. So, if you know, I got to ask you here now that we're at the end, what are you expecting these two drafts to do? What is going to be their approach to this critical Game 3?
I think we're looking at much of the same for both teams here. PK playing a much more standard draft. They're going to be trying to farm it out throughout the early game, look for the 3v3 in mid, potentially try and pressure out some of these buffs to exploit the weaker early game of eUnited, that Giannis in particular is going to have a very hard time before he hits double digits in the levels. Whereas eUnited is the exact same. They're waiting for the opportunity to utilize that double assassin to shut down the back line of PK. But this time, they're doing it with a much stronger just core. Yemoja with healing to help out around these elongated fights around objectives. The Ratatasker to close the gap easily. I think, as far as I'm concerned, eUnited have come away with a much better draft.
Yeah, just because this set's 0-2 doesn't mean it's over. Let's go ahead and get this one over to the casters, because we certainly could have a Game 4.
I'll be honest, I want a Game 4, but more importantly, I want to repeat a Game 2, because if we get the action we just saw there, I am happy, but I want more games, because this one is living up to expectations so far.
Maybe exceeding some expectations. So if you weren't expecting a fun set,
I
then
write the script. So.
Yeah, well, okay, well there you go. Then it's living up perfectly. They're following the script to a T. So if you won a Game 4 and you wrote the script and they're following it so far, okay, all right, sorry.
Give it all away.
Yeah, my bad.
I do like to see the compositions that have come out though, and the adjustments both teams have made here. Biggest one, I think a lot of fans at home, the other casters as well, and you, are all in the emoji, like, get rid of it. And I don't care that much about it. I mean, Neil's going to play whatever he's going to play. Neil's great at his support job.
He is, but think of all the Rivers rebukes that locked Snoopy in last game, and all of the Riptides that set up fights. And, oh, yeah, how about all the range stuns that she had? Or how about all of the healing and shielding that she had? I mean, not many supports can save your team from a 3 or 4 man RDO stun like Gino got late game. Yemoja felt like the one that could.
It's a fair point indeed. Left-hand side, I want to keep an eye on the action early, because last time around eUnited got pressure. And with a Rama and a Yemoja, they're going to get pressure again against this duo out of Zap and Neilmar on the Apollo. This Apollo pick, though, I mean, That's been around a very long time. I don't want to talk about his age too much, but like, he was playing this back in Season 1, and his Apollo is nasty. It's as good as Barra's, and those two together, I never want to see it in the hands in any of the games I'm in.
Not, especially not ones that matter the most, because that's when those two guys have historically always stepped up in those types of games.
Look,
Snoopy late on the beads.
So late on the beads, and now they're swooping from Zap, hunting the kill. Gino's body blocks, just preventing these autos.
Great work by Gino.
Beautiful work out of the supports for both sides there. Beads burn and a response.
But that's a concern for me if I'm an eUnited fan. You know, if I'm Rach sitting there in chat, as you know she is, always rooting on eUnited. Snoopy has not looked good so far this set. Game 1, not a great performance. Game 2, 0-7, I believe, on that Cupid. And then late on the beads, you need this guy locked in. I think that's the real difference here. If Snoopy turns up and plays like he did at the end of Phase 2, I think eUnited has a real shot to reverse sweep because everyone else is playing at a really high level. And we know that Snoopy has one of, if not the highest ceilings on all of eUnited. He really can be that good. We just haven't seen him from that yet today.
Let's be honest, I mean, the talk of both these teams coming into this set was consistency was a problem.
Yeah.
And if the consistency from eUnited still isn't there across the whole table, they are going to struggle. I feel like PK have been very consistent so far in these first two games. Even when behind, they've looked very calm and composed.
Yeah, they've done a good job, and that's something that they didn't do all year long, that sometimes when they started falling behind, they started making silly mistakes that would lose them games. I've been impressed with them in that regard, and I think they took care of a lot of the things in the picks and bans that scared me. I mean, this Persephone obviously is going to be problematic.
Blink block from Neil on Snoopy. Snoopy zoned away from the safety of his tower, but they won't find a pick there. Gino just in amongst the cats and pigeons a little bit more to cause problems. And now there's a cheeky rotation coming up from Hurriwind very early on in support, just in case things go down. Hurry might hit 5 off this, funny enough, because he'll get red buff 2, I want to say. I was just wondering if they were thinking about making a play there. No, he won't get 5, tell a lie.
Pretty close, I'm sure. I don't know, I wonder, I'm a little surprised at Scream picking up beads early on here. I mean, that seems like a lot of respect for Paul in particular on this Persephone, because imagine a Ratatosker without beads. He's probably going to be using that ultimate as an initiation tool, not as a get-out-of-jail tool. And then once you dunk down, Paul uses the ultimate, and you're trapped. I think that that's really the reason we see the beads here for Scream, but that does limit his initiation power. A lot of the threat of Ratatosker, especially with this new Acorn, is the ability to get a blink stun from a pretty solid distance. Now he doesn't really have that. He's either got to sneak up on you and get you a stun that way, or he's got to use the ultimate.
So this pressure game 1, I would say, with Scream lurking around the right-hand side, looking to make sure Scary D can't dominate the lane too early. I do want to bring up the Guan Yu pick here, though, because it was very early in the draft, and it was designed by the looks of it to go to the solo lane.
Pittsburgh Knights clearly value having sustain on their team. I mean, look at their Game 1 comp. They were swimming.
True.
And at Game 2, they had the Emoja. Now that the Emoja's been taken away, they highly prioritized that Guan Yu. But if I'm eUnited, I think I'm kind of happy. Yeah, see Guan on the other side. I mean, Guan clearly a strong pick, but you look at what Scary was able to do. He really kept PK afloat in that last game, in the mid-game, on that Cullen. His team fight presence in the later stages of the mid-game, early stages of the late game, was really, really important for them to keep that momentum going and to stay in the lead. I don't know that Guan can do that as well. I mean, Giannis is a tough matchup for him. Rama really isn't, but even using that ultimate as a delay tool can be very good up against Cavalry Charge. I think that Scary's going to have a hard time matching his incredible presence that he had in game number 2 with a pick like Guan Yu. Not to say that he can't have a big presence, it's just going to be a little bit different. And I wonder if that's what PK needed. I think I would have gone with something pretty similar for him.
It does feel a little bit like they're putting some pressure on Gino on that Umoja too, for my liking. From a Umoja standpoint, you're looking for where is my rebuke going to be used defensively if needed. And straight away, my thought is Sobek, right? Make sure Sobek can't get in and out, cause the problems. But then they've got a Guan Yu that does the same sort of thing. Cavalry Charge, you want to try and nullify it, use those walls there. So maybe they're just trying to make him think a little bit more, because you've still got Persephone on the back of that with the Grasp of Death that can be nullified to an extent.
And don't forget that Rivers Rebuke's going to mess with that Grasp of Death as well. I mean, Gino's got a lot of pressure on him, but after how well he played that RDO, I don't think that that's something you're uncomfortable with if you're eUnited. I think you're down for that. It's a little bit spooky because Zap's already backed. He's got 17 stacks on his Devos. Snoopy has not backed yet. He really needs to get a reset off. They've gotten their purple buff already, but I like PK playing aggressive over here, understanding that United's weak on the side of the map, even with the emoji.
Definitely. So they'll take that Alpha Harpy on the
That's
left-hand
why.
side. It's not worthwhile that much.
He's gone for a Bloodforge
Yeah.
instead of a Devourer's Gauntlet. This is something that Snoopy has done a little bit. Boat does it occasionally, but oftentimes when we ask him, he says, oh, I just had enough gold whenever I back. But I like it up against this matchup.
Well, here's a matchup in the solo lane I've been looking forward to all day. Baskin gave as good as he got there. The sustain from Scary D will keep him topped up, however.
The reason I like the Bloodforge in particular for Rom is because he has really good scaling on his ultimate, and Bloodforge just gives outright more power than something like the Devos. Now, you're not going to get to the same level of lifesteal later on. Devos gives you more lifesteal, but giving Snoopy some more power early, letting his ultimate deal more damage, and letting him be effective from a distance, between a Giannis and some Rom snipes coming through, and a Ratatosker dive, and a Tsukiyomi dive, how do Paul and Zap stay safe? I don't know.
That's a good point. As we see a fight on this left-hand side already, Zap crashed down, but Snoopy read the story there, and Zap didn't really find out much of it. Space and time issues, but on the right-hand side is Cubo Fred down for first blood, and now the pressure from eUnited onto Scary D. This is what eUnited needed early to get themselves in a driving seat for a second, but now Snoopy under pressure in a 2v1.
He's got to try and just fight his way out of it. A Blood Shield would do great work. Good damage, but not going to be able to stand up. He's got to understand that his job in that moment is to just live and not give PK an answer back, because eUnited had so much presence on that right-hand side. And overall, if you were going into that fight asking, hey, you're going to get a double kill, you're going to get blue buff, you're going to get a speed buff, are you cool with that if you lose Snoopy? Of course eUnited's going to say yes, but I don't know if it was necessary.
I'm not going to lie, because a few moments ago, I'm sure I just saw Neil on the right-hand side of the map almost a few seconds ago, that he has dipped from there and went straight to duo to gank for Zapman. And I think the comms from United was, hey, we just saw Neil in solo. So from my point of view, if I'm Snoopy, I'm like, well, I guess there's not as much pressure going on me.
Right.
So that's just really good play from PK.
And it's gotten Zap a big lead. I mean, it's Alpha Harpy invades, it's being here for more waves, it's splitting a little bit less. I mean, all of those kind of combine into a really good lead now for Zap. And he's got boots done already. Snoopy sitting on boots 1. That's going to be very difficult for Snoopy to trade in, even with the higher value item at this point. Once Zap finishes off those Devos, yes, he'll have less power, but he'll have significantly more lifesteal than what Snoopy has.
But again, though, it's United where they found success has been the solo lane, the right-hand side of the map, consistently in these games. And I think PK have just been able to weather the storm of it for the most part, I would say. Because, yeah, they've fallen behind there, but they've found wins around the gold, around the duo lane a little bit more so. And the one thing you don't want to do is have Zap playing with confidence, man. Because when he does, and on the world stage too, he's going to just keep being aggressive and keep the pressure on.
I think it's kind of hard for Scream to gank that side of the map effectively, because if Zap just uses his ultimate, Snoopy doesn't have the damage yet to kill him before he gets up into his ultimate. Rom snipes are fast, but you'd have to preemptively ult, then Zap's going to ult in response right away. It's going to show off that the gank is coming. I prefer this. I like what Scream's doing.
Trap left, Neilmar setting in. Hurriwind walks into it and loses his beads straight away. Love the little backstep though from Hurry, but he doesn't know Cubo's there, and he's gonna need that space and time right about now to get away. Scream tried the up down though and just missed Cubo, and as soon as that went off, Zap goes to the sky. Calm down, Zap, come on. Come on, back to the Gold Fury we go. A nice little tale of events there, I would say, though, because eUnited showed a lot of presence on that right-hand side again at the blue buff, and PK set the trap for Hurriwind and found some results.
And look at what Baskin's doing, using that pressure found by eUnited to get an invade off on this speed buff. So now both right side buffs down, and eUnited is here. Now, not a lot of ultimates to speak of in this engagement for eUnited. Gino's going to come a little bit late. Baskin is really early on this rotation. eUnited should take this fight if they can get it.
Yeah, there was a bit of luck there, I would say, for eUnited. Not luck, but Hurriwind, who did lose his beads, got a ward down just around those oracles that just gave vision of Paul and Cuvo, who were hanging around that purple buff, so there was no extra pressure for eUnited to really eat up there at that moment. So it's 2-1 at 10 minutes in favor of eUnited. The gold, however, even.
Really, really close so far, and Fred is falling a little bit behind because of all these right side buff invades, but you're keeping Zap really far ahead on this left side. So now the story through the mid game really becomes who can do more with their lead. Is it Zapman doing it with this Apollo, or is it going to be Baskin and Scream having slightly smaller leads individually, but about the same collectively on that right side of the map? I like the odds for the Apollo because he's more likely to be in all the engagement, whereas Baskin needs to rotate all the way over in order to make it.
Probably got a bit of time, so I do want to kind of bring up this Nemesis pick that was towards the end of PK's draft here. But I looking across the, the composition that eUnited have, what's that effective against? What's the focus there? There's not a lot of tanky targets, right?
There aren't, and it's a little bit hard to get away. It's really hard to kill Hurriwind. They talked about that on the desk, and that is problematic. But it's also very hard for Hurriwind to kill a Nemesis because that Retribution shield is basically a, all of your unstable vortex damage, I'm good. I don't need that.
If you see it coming.
If you see it coming. You got to see it coming, but I think you will.
Oh, blink, and there's another pluck, and it's Scream under pressure. Beads were used, but it didn't work out very well until I beats were pulled down. But he's in the sky now, and it's Gino under pressure from Neil Mar. Hurriwind, though, got hold of Cubo.
Here comes Zap.
That's an important pick, but as you said, in the sky, is it a bird, is it a plane? It's Zapman looking at Snoopy, but Snoopy's already in the sky, sniping down, looking to get picks on towards Neil Mar. Gino's going to lose a 1v1 with Scary D. Snoopy will escape death for a second, but Zap is still hunting, basking around the back, and it's Zap under pressure, beats used.
Here comes the unstable vortex. He misses it. He goes right through the middle. Double kill for Paul. Baskin does end up picking him up, but that's going to be a deicide for the Pittsburgh Knights. 2 split up for eUnited. They get a little bit too separated. Gino's River's Rebuke does not do the work that he really needed. And really, the tanks just were able to chase down Gino, made sure that he wasn't able to group up with the rest of the gang.
The hardest thing for me there, from eUnited's point of view, is just the momentum loss of losing all 5 members. When you hit that word deicide and you look up and you see it's 12 minutes in, even though you're only a kill down overall and the gold is marginal, like, that is a huge momentum. Damn, we all just lost. Are we all just, having that much of a bad time here? But I don't think they're out of this yet. There was good signs in that engagement.
They fought well, and look, Gino's going to find better Rivers Rebukes than that. I don't think that you can expect him to get so little value out of that ultimate consistently during this game, but it's really Zap making a big impact, again, keeping Snoopy out of that fight entirely, and even though he ended up dying fairly quickly, that threat made it very difficult for eUnited to step up and be the aggressors in that fight, and Paul ends up getting a bunch of kills. He's now 3-0. Bottom Mantle of Discord, 3rd item. Neil
Mar, by the way, every time I say his name, he is plucking and causing problems. The blink engage has been great. And on that little skirmish there, the force ultimate onto Gino is impactful, but not only that, space and time too.
And that's how you have to play against Giannis. You have to make him use through space and time as a defensive tool to try and help his teammates. Don't let him use it as a snipe tool. They can use it as a peel tool.
Are we really 50-50 in here? Beats used, though, by Snoopy. Well timed this time. Neilmar's getting punished pretty heavily. To the back line goes Scary D with the cavalry charge. Gets a good start off to Hurriwind, and Hurriwind will slip away just for now. Scream, though, got hold of Zap on the other side of the map. But this front line engaged Cubo and Scary a little bit lost. Paul, though, under pressure and getting no support. eUnited are finding a better win off this engagement than PK. And Hurriwind, though, can he survive long enough with more support now? It looks like Scream's still giving chase onto Cubo Fred, but that was PK getting aggressive at the Fury right in the face of eUnited. And Scary D could be in trouble too.
That chain CC is lethal. 3 in a row now for Scream, as he had a phenomenal fight. And look, even though eUnited's down 2-0, I think Scream has looked really good. The Bastet game, not as good as I'm sure he was hoping for, but I thought his Robin game was good for a lot of pieces, and he's looking great.
Apollo in the sky, Neilmar under pressure. Is Zap going to come into this fight? The tier 2 still stands. Cubo Fred beating down the front line, but the back line is where Zap's looking for Scream. A great stun from Gino, actually, just to buy some time, but Zap gets to turn around, take out Snoopy. Exit stage left, though, from eUnited as the portal's given the window. I don't like the tier 2. I think the Gold Fury is the better call because it gives a bit of pressure back for PK now.
I agree. It was just respawn timers are so short. We're only 14 minutes into the game. It certainly hasn't been that way in terms of action, but now PK have to worry about doing a very similar thing. Baskin hasn't gotten his back off yet, so he's not going to be here. Looks like Gold Fury will go down without any sort of contest from eUnited, but a really, really good response by eUnited. And you see the difference that a Yemoja makes. I mean, Snoopy's still down in this game. He's still behind, as he has been most of this set, but Gino just sits with him and constantly throws those mending waters on top of him. And even though Scary and Cubo are chomping at the bit to try and get on top of him, they just can't knock him down. Then Hurriwind's able to portal out, then Snoopy's able to live, and then they heal up with this Yemoja and start their sieging. I think Yemoja's pretty good, is what I'm trying to say, and it's been a difference maker already.
She ain't bad since her release, and she's been a fantastic addition to the support roster, in my opinion. Just for a bit of variability, what they can really bring to the table. But eUnited, though, that was a big play for them, I would say. Getting the tier 2 tower down in mid, I didn't really like the call overall. It's going to be okay for now, but in the Sky Scream, same time again, though, Snoopy getting ganked here by Neil Mar. I'm sick of hearing his name already. Zap alongside him, though, keeping the pressure going, but they don't find a result. Snoopy living, and the Pyro going the way of eUnited. More wind beneath him. I was talking about that deicide at 12 minutes, right? I'm like, God, I hope they don't get down on themselves. Well, they haven't. They're still in this.
Oh, Zap can't go into the jungle, so he's got to go through the tower. Take some tower shots. Neil just able to dash out of range of that through space and time. I think this will be an escape here for PK.
I don't know about this anymore with Hurriwind stepping up a little bit further because Paul was on the rotation. Cubo flanking around the back, space and time down, remember. Hurry will be safe, but what about the carries? The tier 1 tower, I would say, is healthy enough there at this stage. Scary D might not be forced to use the cavalry charge to get away from the chase of Baskin and Scream. And that's a combo you don't want to be running into. Paul saw it earlier.
Yeah, he learned the hard way. It looks like tier 1 tower will go down, but Baskin coming with his ultimate is a bit of a scary situation because he can use it to close the gap easily.
Zap forced to use his dash already. Full focus on Zap. Aegis has been used. Snipes out from Snoopy. They do connect, but it's not enough for a kill just yet.
Close.
I don't think Baskin accepts that third snipe because he would have got a kill. Meanwhile, the portal connects. Doesn't do enough there as the unstable vortex comes through. Frontline in his Baskin, he's tanky. He can eat some of this damage, and he's allowing eUnited to rush and push back PK on the left-hand side.
That was close, but Hurriwind still gets one. Cuvo does end up going down, and the tier 1 tower will follow. eUnited sustaining through the use of this Yamoja. They are awfully healthy.
And in up goes Scream, I should say, looking for a pick. He might just hover to try and buy time. Goes down early, gets a blink on a Cupid, so Paul defensively has stayed there to get away. Polo and Marder can't really do much about this. Scary does what he can, but up in the sky again, it's Zap. He's a little bit too late to this party this time round, though. But
no,
he's gonna go in anyway! Finds the stun, looks for the pressure on Scream.
No way!
The River's Rebuke will buy some time,
He's
but
out.
Scream's got no escape route. Still Scary D could find the kill, but the sustain from the Mending Waters keeps him top.
Yamoja, by the way, Gino again just does what no other support in the whole game can do. Just absurd. And Zap comes out of that fight without a kill, and now with no relics whatsoever, or ultimate. If I'm eUnited, it's kind of like our conversation we had a little bit earlier in this set. Keep the pressure up.
Yeah.
Don't let PK, because even though this lead is small, only 3,000 gold, doesn't it feel like eUnited is winning every single skirmish all of a sudden? Everything is starting to go their way. I'd look to play aggressive. Now, you can't just jam your pressure all you want, but wouldn't mind.
Baskin just avoided that damage out from Paul. That ultimate now on cooldown. That'll be called to eUnited one more time. We'll give credit to Zap there on that Apollo ult because it was old school Apollo. It was old school Zap.
Yep.
He was aggressive, but he had backup with him, and it forced defensive, good utility plays from eUnited, which we were just talking about with Gino. It's a danger. The longer the game goes on, the more dangerous those respawns could happen.
Man, this right side of the map for eUnited is just dominating in this game. You look at the level lead, 2 levels for Baskin, 3 levels for Scream, and those two have been absolutely monstrous so far here in game number 3. Baskin in particular, I mean, this is, if you've only started watching SMITE here in Season 7, you hear Baskin's name getting all this hype, you're watching, he's playing Cerberus every game, you're like, I don't really see it. I don't blame you, but this is the type of performance that Baskin is really known for having. He has made everyone miss everything on him. His movement's been incredible, and he's landed just about everything. He's been a real problem so far for PK.
I know we were saying Scream had a good game 1 and 2, even though it didn't show. It's showing now. Hugo, though, and the Nemesis struggling this game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Really not finding much of a window, but here's a play from eUnited again. A lot of Fighter Giant focus from them before. Scream to the sky, reset from eUnited. Zap still split pushing, by the way, for a tier 2 tower, which will go down unchecked. But if I'm honest, if you look at the state of the map, it's still an okay situation. eUnited went back to fire, off fire, on fire. Now Zap's on the rotation.
And Hurriwind just back. They don't realize he's going to get a great dunk here. Snoopy, Scream, Gino, how you doing?
Up, down goes Snoopy, and into the sky he goes to buy a moment, but he's got no reinforcements here. River's Rebuke already on cooldown for Gino. He's going to roll to the portal, though, and escape to the right. Cubo could sense that, but round the back is Baskin too, who's looking for a long-range ultimate and finds it onto Zapman. But Zapman's Aegis is perfectly timed. Still will Scream wrapping on the back.
Oh, my!
Finds hold of Zapman, and in comes eUnited. They're not done just yet. Oh, but the Tower Assault
of
from
course.
Scary D. Just make sure they check themselves for a second. Now Neilmar forced back for a second there too. 12-7, eUnited still in the game.
Woo.
Healthier with those Yamoja sustains. This is a Great set.
And Gino has not been doing a great job with these Rivers Rebukes, but his heal timings have been absolutely flawless. That's another death that should be in Scream's column that isn't, and because of that, eUnited gets to keep pressure up. This is an opportunity to go towards his Oni Fury before Zapman comes up. You know he won't have ultimate quite yet, and Snoopy's starting to catch up in terms of levels and itemization. Still down 2 levels, but it's because eUnited is just grouped permanently. They're perma-grouped looking for these objectives because they're winning every team fight.
Oni Fury under pressure. There was ward coverage there, so PK knows what's going on, but they're not in the area. They're at the Pyromancer. Scream, though, is on the scene. Not a whole lot he can really do here. Blink down, beats down. Got to be careful, but does have the ultimate to try cause some problems for them.
Okay.
And he'll just strip it away
why
in
not?
front of him and give a cheeky little Tawny joke too. Why not? I would under that circumstance. Big play from eUnited though.
Listen, if you're going to 50-50 the Pyromancer in front of someone, you've got to be okay with losing it. You know, you can't be upset after going, what? My slice and diced insecure?
He managed to steal that?
That's so unlucky. It's really just a coin flip in that position, and a great play by Scream, who's just picked up a Kadushi shield, which I love for him in this spot, because now the healing from Gino onto everyone around him is going to be even better. He's going to be getting a lot more sustain from those Mending Waters as if he wasn't getting enough.
There's a quick pull of the FG, but I like it because the Oni Fury minions are pushing down from the Oni Fury that eUnited just got. Scream in the sky, dunking on down onto Neil Moore. They want Sobek out of the fray. Force the ultimate if you can, but Neil Moore dashes away and avoids a lot of the damage. Still though, they want Neil Moore. They use everything on him and they'll take him out. Zap crashes in, looking at Snoopy, and he's dead. Even before the rollout animation ends. Now Scary D trying to frontline against Hurriwind. Gino trying to body block, but Gino getting low too. Next on the list could be Scream. On the backside of the final, look at Baskin. He's taking on the carries of PK at the same time. Gino still alive because of the Riptide, but a blink in from Scary D will answer back. But Baskin tried a 2v1. We'll find out that Season 7 is not his year right about now.
A little bit different than the old days there for Baskin, but still Screaming Hurriwind up 4v2. And again, Gino just a little bit late on that Rivers Rebuke. It forces the rest of eUnited to chase deep into the jungle and sets up for Zap once again. Snoopy didn't get the ult off. I don't know if he had the shell, but he does now.
Keep an eye on Scream. I know there's a Giannis there, but keep an eye on Scream. He just stole a Pyro. He might go for another one. Or maybe a pick onto Cubo Fred. That might come at the cost of the FG, though. Yeah. And it will. PK lose Cubo for an FG. I'm pretty sure if they had a choice, they would go with that one.
Man, if Hurry had used his through space and time like 3 seconds earlier last time he used it, it would have been up in time to then turn and get a really good opportunity at a steal potential. But PK stands strong, big, that Neil's able to get that Fire Giant buff as well. Still have it on 4 members in total, and Cuvo really hasn't been a factor in this game either way. So I don't think it's a big deal. It doesn't have it.
That's a good point. I would say that's the most effective thing we've seen the Nemesis do.
Yeah.
Shot at Cuvo, but that helped out huge for the team.
It did.
Because now 4 members with the Fire Giant. The question is, where are we headed?
And that time, eUnited was the one that got a little bit too split up.
Yeah.
Scream comes into lane to try and help and figure out where Gino is. If Scream's with Baskin there, I think they double kill Paul and Zap. He's got to stick with him in that
But
moment.
I'd argue there was too much investment onto Neil Moore. Here we go. In the sky, Scream looking for a dunk, won't find it. Zap's response, ult immediately. Neil Moore for the peel. Maybe Neil gets focused again though. He's surrounded by multiple members. The flank comes around.
Much
Great
better.
Rebuke here. Cubo under pressure too. But Scary D gets to the back to stop the damage coming through. On the other side though, Neil Moore getting sniped out by Snoopy, whose now ultimate is down. Standing taller PK, remember they've got an FG buff, so it's harder to whittle down these health bars, and a good double stun from Scary. He just wants his teammates to turn up now, and Neil Moore and a blink from Cubo Fred. The chase is on, but look at Baskin. Baskin.
He's coming around the back, but Paul just found Snoopy,
gosh.
and now Hurrowind's in trouble too. Double kill for Paul, and Baskin left in no man's land.
He's just a voyeur at this point, and meanwhile, Pittsburgh Knights pushing down the mid lane. This is a Phoenix.
Game. I think that might be game because,
possibly.
But it's a big deal that Baskin got the wave, so no wave coming for PK at all.
FG a while, dude. They've still got FG for quite a minute, actually, and with that, this should make it a much more potential chance. Meanwhile, Scream's ult on cooldown, Baskin's ult on cooldown, and into the throne room go PK. They want to get deeper into Worlds once again. They were in a rough spot last time round when they came to Worlds in Season 6. But their chickens have not been counted just yet. They're going on in this tournament with a 3-0 that, let's be honest, it was a 3-0, but it didn't feel one. I felt like eUnited could have done more there, and they deserved a little bit more for their games.
Really tough. Really tough loss there, I think, for eUnited, because they played really well in basically all of those games. I mean, you look at what they did in game 1, it was a weird strategy that just, okay, didn't end up working out. So then it's like, okay, what do we end up doing now? Games 2 and 3, they played really well, but still weren't able to come out with the victory. And as bad as that feels for eUnited, it means you got to give even more credit to this PK squad because they were that good.
Completely agree. Let's go to the break, though, and break this down as well. But PK will march on. A great performance from them. Fantastic end to the placement stage. And we're now going to take a day break to have a little look at what's in store this weekend.
What's up, everybody? Dolson here, reminding you guys that on Thursday, during the hi-rez showcase, we will be showing you guys the winners of the yearly cosplay contest that we always do. We've got 2 categories this year, the Journeyman and then the Masters tier. So make sure to vote in the poll now for your favorite out of each of those categories. But let's jump in. Let's take a look at one of your finalists.
A lot of cool stuff going to be happening on Thursday, and the cosplay contest certainly a part of that. We are now at the conclusion of the Pittsburgh Knights up against eUnited, and every single game, eUnited got stronger, didn't they? Each game they looked better, just not strong enough to overcome the frontline diff that is the Pittsburgh Knights. Mifflin, I still got you here with me. What did you see here in this one in particular that made the difference between these 2 squads?
Neilma and Scary D. I mean, you nailed it. Frontline diff all the way across the board. Zetman looked a little bit shaky on the Apollo in the game 3, but easily made up for by the Neilma Scary D combo, constantly running it down, constantly finding priority targets, forcing relics completely on their own. Keep your eyes open, man. These guys, they're going to make their name known.
I think they are, man. They just played so well here in this game, didn't they? Scary D in particular had another monster performance from them getting into the back line. This was the closest one, though, wasn't it? eUnited really looked like they were out in front towards the kind of the middle-ish of this game. We're able to get a nice little lead going for themselves, but it does not take many slip-ups for PK to get into there. And if I'm being honest, this game was a little bit hectic, maybe compared to those other 2, and I think that's kind of what helped PK thrive there a little bit. Scary D was really able to work.
It was almost a mud battle, right? At some points. And Hurriwind can only do so much, right? He can only hit so many max range snipes. He can only find so many unstable vortexes before you're like, well, we can't really ask too much more of this guy. Hurriwind looked really good on the Yanis in game 3.
He really, really did. And the thing is, I'm glad that they took this Umoja away this time for eUnited, but there were a couple times where I felt like maybe Gino wasn't 100% comfortable on it. My man Snoopy, who I'd have talked about as one of our best hunters, was a bit invisible this game too, Miff. I mean, I do want to talk a lot about what PK did well, but in this game, I think there was a little bit of help from eUnited.
Yeah, United did not put their best foot forward for all members. There were certain members, as we've already highlighted, that looked incredibly strong, but I think that, if anything, Snoopy was left alone on an island the entire set.
Yeah.
Nobody cared what was happening to my man, Snoopy Evan Man Jones, right? He was out there working as hard as he could, hustling, having to deal with Zatman running him down, Neilma running him down, Cuvo was over there on occasion as well, and nobody cared about Snoopy, and it's reflected in the slash lines, it's reflected in his GPM. I think if you want your ADC to succeed, you got to help him.
There's certainly some times when that is true, right? I mean, if he's getting pressure, their bus getting pressure, someone's got to come over there and give him a little bit of a hand. That's a little bit about maybe what wasn't up to par there for eUnited. But on the other side, PK had a lot of things running. You talked about it with Zatman. I'll start with him. The willingness was there, right? But maybe a little bit of times where he wasn't quite connecting it. But I think he did enough to help his team out. We already talked about that front line. What about Paul coming back into this game? I think he played well in this one, too. PK came another team effort.
Yeah, I mean, PK, all in all, we know they're defending world champions. Yeah. No one's surprised that they're making it throughout this bracket. I wouldn't be surprised if they make it into the semis, the quarters, the finals, the true finals. These guys are competitors, and they've got the capacity to play not only what they're good at, but also the tier list as well, as displayed by those first 2 games, taking the Yamoja and Persephone on cooldown.
I think they're going to need a little bit more from Cuvo Fred in this next set, though. If they're going to beat SSG, a little quiet in that last one as well. I don't think that's his fault. I think you kind of covered on the desk. Nemesis wasn't the pick there, per se. But now we know what we're going to be looking for on quarterfinals. I believe this is what's going to be starting on Friday. We got the showcase on Thursday. So that's SSG and PK. And then up there at the top, you saw Renegades going to be playing as well. So a lot of good stuff to take a look at here on this next day. But we still got to kind of cover this a little bit more. I mean, I don't know if that's unfair to say there about Cuvo Fred, but he's got to be big. Sam was the big reason why this team is SK won last year. Those are the shoes Cuvo Fred should be able to fill.
They're big shoes. They really are. But Cuvo is a player that I think we said at the top of the hour is someone we haven't seen at his full potential just yet.
Yeah.
I don't need him at full potential right now. I need him at full potential as we get further and further into this tournament. And if he's not showing 100% and PK still looks that good, God bless the team that has to stand up against him when Cuvo's looking strong too.
Man, you really turned that into an actual positive. This team still looks really good. We're going to be bringing it back, though, to that big desk here in just a minute. Wrap up the entire day. Quick break, and we'll be right back.
Freon dove right back into the midst of it. Oh, that final judgment.
That is in there looking for the kill as Cerberus is being chased out. They have the slows.
But a big ult in for the Cerberus right on top of two of them, throws them into the clutches of the other.
Welcome back to the SWC at home. We are rounding out day 3 already, right? Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. This is flying by, but it's all been exciting. I know we can't quite be together the way that we normally will, but there is a way you all can still be involved. Right? Make sure that you are tweeting out how you are watching the SWC at home, and we can get that onto the broadcast potentially if you got a pretty nice thing going on, just like we are seeing here. Let us know what's going on, how you're still enjoying it, and maybe we can still feel like we are all still together even in these sometimes trying times. We need that help, don't we?
This we do, but this is great work. Dajo really
excited
understands.
About the human connection. I know it's this dog. All right, that's fine.
Yeah, obviously it was this dog, Finn. If you have a pet and you include them in your tweet with, of course, the hashtag SWC at home, that is cheating. Overin will almost certainly send that along to us, and we almost certainly will end up putting it on the broadcast. That's a little pro tip.
Exactly right. If you were wondering, it's Finch, Aggro, and Mifflin here on the desk.
Hey.
Absolutely. As we come in to close out one more day, it'll be the showcase tomorrow, and then we're picking up with the quarterfinals, I believe, right after that for SWC. So a lot of good stuff going to be happening throughout this week. But let's talk a little bit, though, more about what we just saw happening in this last one, man. What a grueling set that didn't quite get to close out. Aggro, tell me real quick what your thoughts were on that before we get to talk to him.
I think that was the best Smite eUnited's played all year, and they got punished for it because PK was just better.
Tough, isn't it?
Wow.
SWC PK, what do you do against that team? All 5 of them played absolutely nuts.
They did indeed play well, and that PK team has one of their reps standing by. Cuvo Fred is one of the best that we got here in the SPL, and he's here to talk to us, so we'll see if we can get him up here for you all and see how he's feeling after that big win. Cuvo Fred, how are you doing, man? First off, that was kind of a tough set, but you still win at 3-0. How's the squad feeling after that big dub?
Hey, what's up? Yeah, we're feeling great. Honestly, we had some rough practice. We didn't not necessarily win a lot, so I think coming into this set, we just wanted to play some good Smite, and honestly, I think we all felt that we played some good Smite today, and that's all we really wanted. And yeah, we went 3-0, and what more can you ask for? I felt really good.
Yeah, you all played really, really well. Cuvo, you are coming in now at the most important times of the year on part of this team that won Worlds last year. What has it been like for you kind of joining into this roster, folding in, and is there any pressure on you now to kind of live up to what they were able to do last year?
I mean, it's been a great experience getting to know the guys, and obviously I know they all are great players. They're a great team. Like, once you get down and dirty with them, they know how to get muddy, and yeah, I feel a bit of pressure, of course, and that's how I like it. We're aiming for the championship, and that's what we're gonna do.
Wow, the epitome of a competitor, Cuvo Fred. Talk to me a little bit about the way that this set went, because especially in Game 3, things were getting really, really close between you and eUnited. You got a lot of help from Neil and Scary D closing this one out. What is it like for you all when you're playing in these really kind of, like you said, kind of muddy type of battles that are so back and forth? How does the team handle it?
I mean, honestly, we had a game plan and we kind of followed up. Personally, I took kind of a hit for it. Scream managed to get quite a lead, and it should be like that. And then that's where the strengths just shows in this team, that anyone can step up if need be. And Sap had a great game. The Rama was punished. Scary, Neil, Paul, all of them playing absolutely great Smite. So yeah, I think under that kind of situation where it gets a bit muddy, you could say, I think everyone not excel, but excels, and like everyone knows what to do, and yeah, I think team play was really strong today.
Cuvo, I think you're absolutely right to say that anyone on your roster can step up at any time. I appreciate you, man, talking to us a little bit. Congrats on your victory. Can't wait to see what you all do the next time we see you. Thanks for talking to me, man.
Thank you.
What an interview there from Cuvo Fred, though, right? Talking about how he knows that he can trust this team, loves the pressure as well. Miff, I talked to Aggro already, so I guess I'll come to you on this one.
I guess.
That is what it is like, right? To talk to someone who is trying to win this Worlds, man. He loves all this pressure.
I think it really does put on display that this guy is a true competitor, right? He wants the pressure on him. He wants to have to prove himself in front of all these other people, and I love seeing it, man. It's exactly what you want to see from these players. If I catch anyone smiling after a loss or something like that, they'll lose my respect instantly, and Cuvo Fred certainly wouldn't be caught doing that.
Listen, Fred is just the type of dude who has had these question marks about if he can step up in these big moments in his career. And for him to say it's a little bit of pressure and he acknowledges that and then say, and I love it. I love that. And you know what? I think that the way that PK played these two games, especially, I mean, Fred just absolutely popped games 1 and 2. And then you heard him say he has to take a back seat based on their gameplay in that game. And for him to be willing to do that, be willing to make the right play still and set up his team for success, I mean, the dude's a true veteran, and it shows.
And you know what's crazy to me is that his legacy has always been kind of the second behind adapting, right? And I think that that's something that more than we think kind of weighs on these guys. And Cubo Fred could have a chance to go out there and make the highlight play every time if he wanted to. Instead, the kind of guy that would make the play there for the team. That's absolutely wild, and I love hearing that he's felt like he's fit into that team, right? That he's able to be a part of it, that they've welcomed him in there, that they're a strong team as well. It's hard to ask for much more. Myth, I mean, you got any more closing thoughts on the actual set that we saw? It's like Aggro said, it felt like United played really, really well, and it just didn't matter because of how well PK were playing.
The rest of the SPL needs to be put on notice, because if they're going to play like that every single time, and we even said that Cubo Fred, even if he's bringing 80% in that last set, I'm not sure that's even an accurate number, but if he has 20 more % in the back pocket to tear out, be afraid. Every other player needs to be afraid. A lot of the conversation around Cubo is, can he fill the shoes of Sam for soccer? I think he definitely has the capacity.
He looked a lot like Sam in this set, didn't he? Was that initiator, got in there, especially on the Pele, as really shades of Sam. And the big thing that I think would scare me if I were watching this PK team like SSG, remember, that's the team that beat SSG in the semifinals. They were Renegades last year. Didn't that look an awful lot like last year's Neilma at Worlds? Didn't that look an awful lot like last year's Scary D at Worlds? Very, very similar in the way they wanted to play the game and the way they ended up executing. I agree with Mifflin, man. The rest of the league's on notice right now.
They absolutely have to be. One of those teams from the rest of the league, though, is the Renegades. They played earlier today up against Mind the Gap. And Miff, I'll come to you on this one since you and I are working on this one together. That was a tough game. That's the SOC representative going up against the 4th seed overall here. And I think they put up a hell of a show. It wasn't enough for them to win, but especially that game 3 was impressive. I mean, how you feel about how that game ended up and how Mind the Gap played?
Look, I think the players on SSG can only feel good about it, right? They can only feel good about the performance they put forth. And I think it's a team that has high expectations of themselves. They don't come into this thinking, I'm looking to play good Smite. They're coming in saying, I'm going home with the ring. Raffers last year in the SPL, imagine the storyline. I want to see him doing whatever he does with trophies on stage, you know what I mean?
He got himself a nice emote in the game. Aggro, you don't mind talking about Mind the Gap like I asked this time, do you?
Oh, no. I sure don't, and that's why I'm in the number 2 seed
That's
now.
right, you
I've
moved
up because Gore left. We just slide on up. Look, Mind the Gap is a team that is filled with players that you have not seen the last of these guys. And I think that we are going to see, if not 1, 2, or maybe even 3 of these names in the SPL sooner rather than later, especially in the jungle if these guys are retiring like everyone's talking about.
Right.
Layers is a dude we're going to be talking about a lot next year. And even though Mind the Gap took a little bit to find their footing, they ended up in a spot where they were able to show off what they're capable of. And I think that even though I'm sure it feels bad that they ended up losing today, being able to say, hey, at least we had at least one game where we were able to come out and show what we were capable of, really take it to a team like SSG, in a couple days, couple weeks, that'll feel good.
Really wish I could console them by telling them it was a hell of a performance, but I don't think they're trying to listen, at least right now.
No.
We'll get to those guys a little bit later on. Another great performance there with the Renegades and Mind the Gap. It is, of course, Renegades. That'll be moving on. And those two teams are about to play. And then after that, it's Ghost at the top of the bracket they're waiting on, and then Radiant's down at the bottom. This is a tournament that just gets harder and harder. Even the SOC and SEC teams were an absolute challenge. So this is not going to be an easy one that we were talking about here. So now I guess we can talk a little bit about, we're taking a little bit of a break from competitive on Thursday, but then we're coming back on Friday. I mean, do you have any expectations of what we're going to be seeing happening down the line? What I know right now is it's hard to know what is coming.
It is so difficult, but I think there's been one common thread throughout every single set. It's healers. Smite in Season 7 is the season of healers. Ra, Chang'e, Aphrodite, Guan Yu, every single top pick. Yamoja, but it seems like Yamoja not getting enough respect recently. You know, that's not getting the bans. Let me work through what I gotta do, okay? I'm gonna take that seat back.
The sassy.
All right. I think healers are gonna be on the swivel here. I think it's gonna be bans on bans on bans allocated towards the sustained focused gods.
Aggro, I'm gonna pause it to you. Which one of those quarterfinals do you think is gonna be the Renegade Sanguine or Space Station PK? If you had to call one the bigger set, which one would you say?
It's got to be SSG PK. I mean, this is a rematch of last year's semifinals. That loss for the Renegades players now, SSG,
All right.
has lived rent-free in their heads since that date. Well, I did Votes Player Spotlight. Didn't want to talk to me the whole time, I felt like. Then I mentioned that loss, and I personally insulted him by bringing it up. That loss stung those guys, and they want revenge badly against the Pittsburgh Knights. And what better way for the Pittsburgh Knights to keep momentum going than by beating the best team before this point in the bracket? I mean, the number 3 seed in Space Station Gaming. Look, Renegade Sanguine's going to be a 6 set. You cannot afford to miss that. I think it's going to be an absolute fireworks show, but if you're asking me for the best set, it's going to be SSGPK.
Well, Miff, I know you got to be of a different opinion. Sanguine kind of being the villains here a little bit, so I'm sure you're excited for that one. I know we're going to be showing here in just a minute how the rest of this week's going to end up looking, but Miff, Sanguine got to put up or shut up, I feel like.
I think that if Sanguine are able to take out the Renegades, we can clearly give them the villain tag. But if Renegades take them out here, I'm going to label them clowns, okay? Shinto and the boys, they want to talk their smack. They got to pack it up, all right? They got to be able to find wins when it matters. Renegades are going to show us the truth.
Now, here's the thing. I don't want to insult Chad. I'm glad they're here. We got some know-it-alls out there. If you really do know-it-alls, show up for hi-rez trivia, 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. The cosplay contest. There has been some sick stuff that we have been showing throughout the week. Make sure you want to see that. And then hi-rez, the rapper. Let's give the man a chance to earn the name, right? He's been getting confused with us all this time. Come check that out and see what he's got. And then obviously, I think the keynote, the hi-rez present's got to be the biggest event on there. Pon's been kind of slowly showing the leaks. You want to see exactly what's up with that one, Aggro. I know we can't say much about it, but I'm sure you're at least excited about them seeing it all.
It is wild.
Yes.
Like, it is, there is some stuff that you're going to be freaking out about, because I was freaking out about it when I first read it, and low-key, I'm still freaking out about it. It's going to be really fun. Season 8 is going to be the best year of SMITE yet. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, it's a little hard for me to look forward to it because I can't forget Mifflin and Lermy kind of waxing me on it every time we played on it. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff going to be coming up. Yeah, you got to get Lerm. That's just the way that it goes. That is the end of the day here on Wednesday. Remember, tomorrow, Thursday, we got all the cool stuff coming up. Then we will resume the SWC stuff on Friday. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
You hang up again, baby. I just can't be alone tonight. Don't you hang up again, baby. I just can't be alone tonight. Ticking like a bomb, falling in motion, center of the stage, hoping that we'll be right. Back again. You hang up again, baby. I just can't be alone tonight. Don't you hang up again, baby. I just can't be alone tonight. You hang up again, baby. I just can't be alone tonight. Don't you hang up again, baby. I just can't be alone tonight. Don't you hang up again, baby. I just can't be alone tonight. Don't you hang up again, baby. I just can't be alone tonight. shelter from the cold. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? I saw you all alone. Your eyes match the weather, raining under pressure. Oh, you say you wanna go, yeah. So let's get away from here. Let's get away from here.